renting to own.
Yeah.
Windows is owning to rent for something that normally you get for free.
It is Linux.
It is Linux.
It is Linux. In fact, it's actually Debian. I mean, it's a good quality Linux, but the model is kind of strange. You know, Linux you can get for free, as Patrick pointed out. They want you to spend what, $100 for Windows, and then a yearly fee to take advantage of this, you know, one-click installation feature that they have.
Right. One-click install. Click and run.
Click and
Which,
run.
oddly enough, features primarily programs that the vast majority of us we get for free. By downloading or purchasing a normal Linux distribution.
I think Michael Rogers' idea, and he's the guy who started this. Pardon me? Robinson. Whatever. Michael Robinson, the guy who started this, was the founder of MP3.com. Michael Robertson. Robertson was the founder of MP3. And I think his idea was people will pay to make Linux easier to use, which is a sensible idea, not illegal.
We agree.
Not wrong.
However, the first couple versions of Windows were not particularly easier to use, and it's just now getting to the point where it's starting to approach the sort of, it was originally like, well, it's going to be Windows, but it's going to run Windows applications.
That was, they changed that strategy.
Yeah.
They originally were going to be like easy to run Windows, and they said, well, we can't do that. So let's just make it easy to install, and it will be Linux applications.
And we'll make it easy to install additional applications, which, again, is one of the chief complaints with Linux for Windows users.
So you're probably looking and saying, oh, look, $7.99 for these Windows PCs. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, I was looking at a Tiger Direct catalog.
Like a $2.99 Windows machine?
Yeah.
See, the beauty of that machine is not only does it feature a peculiar operating system, but it probably features a VIA chip, which is equivalent to something running slower than a stock Pentium.
Yeah, that's pretty
Find it, scrape, beg, plead, work an extra job, steal money, whatever. Just find another $200 or $500. You can get a great entry-level PC. You'll get one with a real AMD or an Intel processor. You'll get one, you know, probably, and I have nothing against running Linux. There's some great Linux systems out there, but a Windows system at $2.99, it sounds like, wow, it's really not quite. If all you're going to do is browse the web and type emails and stuff, you're golden. But spend a couple more, you know, $100, $200 more, get a system that's got a real processor.
I wish more vendors sold computers without any operating system, because you are paying a Windows tax if you just want to install Linux. I guess that's the only real advantage. Okay, Dustin?
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're probably going to want Windows if you're going to college. That's what everybody else is going to be using.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be a little different.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. And, you know, you can put Linux on that nice Windows box. There's no reason not to. In fact, it's a good idea to do that. Folks, don't go anywhere. You want to know how much you can sell your old iMac for? We have helpful answers. Info for sellers who are looking for the right price to charge on eBay. It's today's download of the day. And after the break, you want perfect sounding music? Of course you do. We've got a great idea for lossless audio compression. Forget MP3. You can get all these CDs on one little disc. We'll show you how right after this. Welcome back to the Screensavers. It's time for, I want to do more of these. I think this is great. A viewer tip. Dan from Leoville sent me a really great idea. He lives in Maple Plain, Minnesota, for making CDs without losing any quality at all. In fact, Dan's on the line right now. Hello, Dan. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I'm doing great. It's great to meet you finally after talking to you for so many years. And this was your... Now, normally when we talk about putting a CD on a computer, we talk about ripping it. So we'll take a CD and we'll turn it into MP3s, compress it by 10 or 11 to 1, make it a lot smaller, and store it on the computer. The problem with that, of course, is you lose some quality. You, in your wisdom, in your youth, in your braininess, have thought of a way. Why should we lose any quality, right?
Yep.
What do you do with this?
I actually use this utility because I have a lot of CDs. I have like a 256 CD folder.
Wow.
And I take them out into the car a lot, and they end up getting, a lot of my real CDs end up getting scratched? Or sometimes got pits in them, broken. And what I originally thought of this idea for was to back them up onto something that would never touch my car's CD player.
Exactly.
And just keep that in a safe place in case one of those discs got scratched or broken.
When I read your suggestion, I said, this solves a problem of mine. Every year, you know, we break out the Christmas music, right? And every year we spend time searching because they're all disappeared. Some of them are under the couch. They're all scratched up. You know, the cat's got one in its litter box. They're all over the place. And I end up buying, you know, duplicate copies every year. So I thought, this is Dan's thing's going to save me. What I'm going to do is get all of my Christmas albums. I get about 12, you said 12 to 15 on one DVD, right?
Yep, it averages about 14 or so.
Yeah, on one DVD, and then I can archive this, and then every year I break out some blank CDRs and I can re-rip them, and instead of losing quality each time, these are going to be exactly the same as the original. And the other thing I like about this, the program that you recommended, we're going to show these 3 programs in a second, is very good at recovering scratched CDs, because I have a lot of scratched CDs. So let's start with that. That's Exact Audio Copy. This is free, right, Dan?
Yep, it's free.
Now, one thing I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this, this uses ASCII, as some programs do, to access the CD-ROM, and ASCII in Windows XP is a little troublesome. So I ended up having to go to the Nero site and downloading their ASCII drivers and putting them in my Windows System 32 directory. Once I did, it had no trouble recognizing my CDs. I'm going to put one in right now, and it should recognize it right away. This is different from an average ripping program, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not like you can rip with anything, Music Match, CDEX. How is this different, Dan?
It actually, it's built in to not. There's several methods in it. One of them they call secure mode.
Right.
And what it does is analyzes the built-in error correction on the CD, and it will, if it finds a spot, it'll slow down the ripping process down to as slow as it wants to, and it'll try as hard as it can to use the error correction to fix that little blip in the audio. And if it can't fix it, you're kind of out of luck, but it usually does. It can fix almost. I've had pretty deep scratch CDs that it actually did fix.
It resurrected CDs that I had never thought I was going to get back again, including this one. It has built-in free DB, which is like CDDB. It actually looks this up on the internet. Now you can rip them as a wave, as individual WAV files. As MP3, you can plug in the lame encoder or any MP3 encoder you want. But this is what you suggest, ripping it as an image. And what that does, I'm going to show you here because we already did it ahead of time, is it makes 2 files. It makes a .q file, which is the track information, and then it makes a large, 450 megabytes in this case of Christmas carols, WAV file. This is just one big WAV file, right, uncompressed. Identical to the CD-ROM. So now there we go. So what we could do is, and we could occupy a lot of hard drive space, 400, 500, 600 megabytes per CD on the hard drive. But then that's when we go to the next step, which is Monkey's Audio, another free program. I like this. Tell me where you found this. This is great.
I actually got recommended it by a couple friends of mine on IRC, and it's a program that everybody was saying, you know, MP3's old hat and everything. I don't really believe that.
No, I like MP3 still.
Yeah.
But this will, instead of 10 to 1, which MP3 is 10 or 11 to 1, it'll compress it to 1/10 the size. I'm getting about 30 to 50% reduction. So it's about half as big.
Yeah, it usually, if you double-click on the file in Winamp, it'll usually say, depending on what the CD's information is, whether it's got good stereo separation, whatever, it's usually between 40 and 60 or 70%. So it's usually around 50% compression.
You're saving some space, but here's the nice thing. This APE file format that it creates, which is the compressed file format, is playable in Winamp. They have a plug-in for Winamp, so you don't have to decompress it to play it first. So that's nice, right, Dan? Because you keep these on your hard drive, and they're perfect copies. They're not lossy compression. They're perfect copies. And of course, you can burn them, and that's what I ended up doing. I have quite a few songs that I end up burning on one DVD, and now I can either bring them back on the hard drive, decompress them, and rip them. And you have a final suggestion, which I think is wonderful. I can even mount them now. Does this mount the WAV files with Daemon Tools, or does it mount the APE files?
It only works on the actual WAV file.
So I have to decompress it. I have to decompress it first. But in effect, I can mount that WAV as if it's a CD using this free Daemon Tools, and then I can rip it using my MP3 ripper, or burn a copy of it as if I'm burning a copy of a regular CD.
Yeah, it treats it exactly as if it was the original CD.
Couldn't be better. You can use Nero then to make a copy of it, or Winamp to rip it, or Music Match to rip it. So some really cool programs. The idea, once again, is MP3 is lossy. It loses some of the quality. This is a way to save your CDs exactly, even after compression, as they were, so that you can reconstitute them and get them back to the way they were, or store them on your hard drive. And then if you scratch CDs in your car or scratch them under the sofa, you can get them back. That's basically it, right, Dan?
Yep.
Hey, I appreciate your writing this up for us. We've got Dan's article on the web, It's a great tip. I think nowadays, with the size of hard drives, there's a lot of people who say, why should I sacrifice the quality when I can make a perfect copy and still save it on my hard drive or put it on a DVD? We appreciate it, Dan.
Yep, thank you.
Take care. Good to talk to you. We'll see you on Leoville, okay?
See ya.
All right. And folks, if you've got a great idea that you'd like to share with the Screensavers audience, you guys are smarter than anybody. You've got some great ideas. I know you do. Send it to the Screensavers at techtv.com. Stay put, folks. We have some Photoshop tips ahead that tap into your artistic genes. Yes, brainstorming for artists with Photoshop. And coming up next, you want to sell on eBay? You want to make sure your stuff is priced right, don't you? Sarah has a download that will help you find the right price to charge. But first, listen up, because Jessica has a web tip for you.
Hey guys, if you haven't noticed, everybody has got something to say on the show. So for that reason, we have message boards and forums. For our show, here are the boards right here. And then here's Leo's at Leoville. We got Yoshi's boards up. And then we have beautiful Kevin Rose's new forum right here. Beautiful, isn't it? Just like his little buttercup, Sarah. Aww, more Screensavers coming up.
Do not forget to register for this week's Screensavers LAN Party, powered by NVIDIA. The game is EA's Battlefield 1942.
We got whooped on that.
Yeah, they're good out there. They're good. It's a fun. Well, now we're going to do the demo version.
Cool.
The full version will not work with our servers, so even if you have the full version, you got to download the demo version and the latest patches to play with. Let's go to the Screensavers.com, click Join Our LAN Party. You'll get links there. You'll register. You got to be invited to play. That's how the LAN party works. We get the applications. We get thousands of applications each week, and then we select 200 people, send them the passwords, and then then it's basically first come, first serve at that point to get in. So we'll see you Thursday for the Screensavers LAN party, powered by NVIDIA.
Oh, so cool. Bill joins us on a payphone from...
A payphone?
Nah, just kidding. Fuquay's Arena, North Carolina.
How do you say that?
Again?
Fuquay Arena.
Fuquay's Arena.
Leo, Pat, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? What is the origin of that name, Fuquay's Arena?
Yeah. It was two towns that merged together.
But they don't sound like English, if you don't mind my saying.
Well,
now, we're used
really
to High Point, Greensboro.
Yeah, Fuquay.
It's about 60 miles east of Greensboro.
Cool.
About 15 miles south of Raleigh.
Well, we've been there. That's for sure. What can we do for you, sir?
Anyway, I was wondering about, I know you're going to tell me not to open email attachments.
Don't open attachments whenever
you might die!
Don't open attachments! Oh my God! It's a what? Sorry.
Well, I did a Windows update
a
couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Now when I open my mail, if there's an attachment with it,
it won't let you open it.
It won't let me open it.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of draconian, isn't it? That's Microsoft saying you're not smart enough to do the right thing. So we're going to keep.
Or maybe we're tired of people blaming us for
that may be
making a naked and exposed, insecure operating system that's destroying the internet.
What bugs me about Microsoft, though? See, that's exactly it. They made basically an operating system and a mailing program that allow these viruses in.
Right.
And then instead of fixing the problem at the root, they just say, well, whatever you do, don't open attachments.
Well, is there any way around it?
Yeah, absolutely. What are you using, Outlook or Outlook Express?
Outlook Express.
Yeah, it's actually very easy. I think we showed it the other day. It's just a setting in the Outlook Express. You know, I got to say, right now, there's a virus, an email virus that's pretty virulent going around. This is another thing I hate. Why does AIM launch every time I open Outlook Express? It's driving me absolutely bonkers. So we're going to go to Options. There's one going around right now, Security. And right here it says, do not allow attachments to be saved or open that could potentially be a virus. That's checked right now. That Service Pack 1 did that, okay?
Okay.
So just uncheck that. But if you do it, you got to be careful because there is a virus right now, for instance, called Fizzer.
Right.
That's going around as an attachment. The truth about attachments is if you're smart about it, they're safe. Here's the real rules. You want me to know the basic rule that I tell everybody, and Microsoft's apparently saying too, is don't open attachments. The real rule is a little more complicated. Don't open executable attachments.
However,
well, I mean, how do you know what's executable? There's over 50 different executable things like PowerPoint, Excel, Word files. Those all have executable capabilities.
Whoops.
PIFs, screensavers, COM files, BAT files. .exe files. It goes on and on. In fact, we should put the link up. We have it on the website of the 50 different extensions.
There's a lot of them.
Even an expert's going to get fooled by that sometimes because it's going to say something like Patrick Norton nude.jpg, and you're going to see
Who
that.
could resist?
And who could resist that? But what you're going to miss is that it also says .jpg.exe.
Right.
And you may miss that.
Well,
So-
let me ask you one more thing. Is it safe to run? Is it safe to run the email through my virus scanner first? and then
Here's the
open
problem.
attachment?
That does not protect you because email viruses. Now, this is less so nowadays because people do run antiviruses and because of things like Outlook. But
However.
they spread so fast because they spread via email.
Right.
And in the early days, certainly, they spread. It took at least 24 hours before the antiviruses caught up. So you would have had to update the antivirus, you know, and it would have had to have an update for you. And by the time that happened, chances are you got it. So don't open executables. If you get an attachment that's not an executable, even if you think it's not, call the person who sent it. Said, "Did you mean to send me this?" Don't open generic attachments that look like spam. You know, Anna Kournikova pictures.
Yeah, there's so many things that like you see it, and it's especially if you have friends that constantly send you.
Well,
crud.
yeah, and that makes me mad. I filter that stuff out too. But if somebody says, you know, here are the estimates for your company for the Q4 growth in an Excel spreadsheet, it's, you know, then virus check that because it could have a macro virus. But
Or if
that's
it's
probably
coming
all right.
from like your buddy who you go fishing with constantly and have never talked companies with your entire life, then you
Then
should think twice.
worry about it. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right, Bill. So
right,
just
thanks a lot.
good common sense is going to protect you.
Okay. Appreciate it.
And lock.
And
And not
lock.
opening extensions.
When's the last time you got a virus? It's been a while, huh? I haven't had one. I got Klez. So it's been a
I
couple of
got
years.
Klez on one machine.
Yeah.
And everything else.
Anybody
has been
can.
Clean for 2 or 3
That's
years.
the point.
Yeah. It's the spyware that I get riddled and
Oh,
maimed
I
with.
got a ton of that. I run SpyBot regularly, and I ran it last week. Five spyware programs.
I ran it last week, 32.
Oh, dang, you're good.
Let's turn it over to Sarah, who's going to give us the download of the day.
Question for you guys.
Yes, short stuff.
Sell a lot of things on eBay. I am not short. You're just very, very tall.
Thank
No, he's
you.
not.
That's the nicest thing
Oh.
she ever said.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'm a little short. You don't want to see me without shoes on.
I sell stuff sometimes on eBay. Yeah.
You feel like you get a good deal.
Well, you never know, do you? How do you know what to sell it for?
Wow. Interesting transition. Moving right along. Whether you are a frequent seller of things on eBay, or even if you've never even sold anything before, you need to know that you need to know what you should sell your stuff for. That way you don't overprice things, because then no one's going to buy it, or underprice things, and then you don't really make enough money.
Right.
And of course, you're selling things because you want to make a lot of money.
Right.
That's the point. That's what eBay's all about. Hot Bids is this nifty little program I found. It's $25. It also has a free demo version. There's some limitations, but you can certainly see what's going on with it. It allows you to search popular item categories and find out what items get the most bids. Now, I'm looking at the hot items view here, and it basically has a bunch of categories here: antiques, clothing, electronics. I did a travel search, and it's pretty much telling me, you know, for example, down here on the bottom, you know, some Louis Vuitton luggage had $405, got 39 bids. So, you know, it's expensive stuff. They're selling it for, you know, doesn't seem like a deal to me, but 39 people thought it was. So that's something that you could sell, and you know that you're probably going to get some bites, basically. You can also search by category here. Kevin was really interested in this one. I searched for vintage computer stuff. Now, see, it's searching here. There's a little process bar. And, you know, for example, an Apple computer belt buckle
I'll take
from
it.
1978. 6 people wanted it for $26.
Wow.
Maybe you could, you know, bid 27, you know, or sell yours for, you know, 28 and get a good. It's basically just giving you an idea of what you can sell stuff for. You can also search by keywords. It's very, you know, browser-ish. You can also set presets. If I have a lot of rap music that I want to sell, you know, I just make that my preset, click on it, and it'll let me know what's being sold for rap music and what people are getting it for: diamond rings, interesting cookies, things like that. And you can set options. You can
Interesting cookies?
I sell a lot of interesting cookies.
Really?
Well, I might if I wanted to. And in the options page, you can, you know, search how many pages you want at a time. Do you want to, you know, condense your items? Do you want, you know, several pages? You just want one of the most relevant stuff. So basically, this is just a really, really great way to figure out what you can sell stuff for. So again, there's the demo version. There's some limitations, but you can play around with it, decide if you want to spend $25 or not. But it is a great resource for anybody who wants to sell on eBay. You want to make money, kids. So, of course, the link is in my article at thescreensavers.com. Just look for the download of the day, hot bids. You'll find it all there. But I really want your suggestions too, so please email me at sarah@techtv.com. You too, Patrick, because you never email me. Unless you want something.
He wants your chocolate dipped macaroons.
No way.
Yeah.
That would be big
I've
box
given
of
him
Oreos.
far too many of those.
Really?
Well,
We're learning something here, aren't we, boys and girls?
Don't go anywhere. You know what? You'll learn more. Our next caller wants to know more about the all standards routers out there. And up next,
those dual band doohickeys.
yeah, I'm going to give you some amazing free game downloads. Not one of them will cost you a penny. That's all coming up in the screensavers. Continue.
Welcome back to the Screensavers. I'm Leo Laporte.
And I'm Patrick Norton. This half hour, we're going to have some stellar Photoshop tips from a graphic artist. And, well, you know what? Right now, I'm going to show you a bunch of games.
This is great. This is that great parking simulator that you've been telling me about. I can't wait to play this.
You know what? If I'd had this when I was learning how to parallel park in high school, life would have been a lot simpler.
Oh, no, there's a meter maid.
Oh, no.
What is this game?
We have to say, you know a game company is having a really, really good year when not only do they sell like 7 million copies of their latest game, but they turn around and they take the first version of the game that made them famous, Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar Games, who we're talking about. Grand Theft Auto originally came out in 1997. This is what it looks like. However, it's running on a PC and
They're
not a
giving it
console.
away?
Giving it away. It's a 328 megabyte download. This is what Grand Theft Auto 3 looked like 6 years ago.
It's come a long way, and yet this is probably still
way.
a lot of fun.
It's still a lot of fun, and did I mention that it's free? This is a bunch of free games, and you can basically go out and do
You're
all
still trying to hit pedestrians, right?
Well,
Ooh, ow.
you know,
Watch out.
there's those of us who enjoy.
Don't hit those pedestrians. Come on.
Well, you know what? I'm having a little trouble controlling here. It's distracting, this whole television environment. Wait, I can back into
The problem is you're driving a Subaru. I think you need something with a little more oomph.
You're right. Let's steal the pickup truck. That's more
There
my
you
style.
go. That's it. A racing pickup truck. So this, obviously, they made a lot of money with Vice City and their newer Grand Theft Autos. But
And
this
so
is the one that started the
They decided to
granddaddy.
give a little something back to the community. They're actually giving this away
What
for
fun.
free. We got the links up on the website, Rockstar Games, and Classics is what they're calling them. Now, see if we can take a step over here, and if we can bring up the other machine. Our own Joshua Brentano hooked me on this one. Producer
That's the
Joshua.
Mac, I
That's the Mac.
There we go.
There we go. Now this looks really strange, right? You see all the people up on here? This is a game called Puzzle Pirates. Makes absolutely no sense. You're a pirate.
Yeah.
You're sailing. You're sword fighting.
love that.
You're into conquest. However, when you actually want to fight something, right here, it's my pirate over here. Let's bring him over here, and let's see if we can start a sword fight. So I'm going to choose someone. I'm going to challenge him to a sword fight. You can challenge for money or not. And then what will happen is when you start to engage something, you'll start a game. And in this case, right, a lot of puzzle
it's really
games.
just Tetris.
Well, it looks like it's really just Tetris, but you're actually playing Tetris against somebody else. You can't really see it all the way up in the corner.
Is it another
up there.
human?
There's another human at the other end of this.
Oh, so you're actually playing on the internet.
And you know what? It looks really simple, right? This can't be hard. It just looks like Tetris. Well, I'll tell you what. You're actually challenging them to a duel. And depending on how you choose to stack up things, you will either beat them by filling up their screen with blocks, or they will beat you. Sounds really simple, not quite as easy as it looks. I promise.
Fun.
There's sailing games. There's all sorts of games inside of this. Looks really easy.
It
It's
looks
not.
like a lot of fun, actually.
It is a lot of fun.
So this is an internet-enabled game where you're playing a broad variety of wacky games, but against real people. It's not against
real
the
people.
computer.
Against real people. Now,
Is this actually a real person?
this is actually a real person who's going to kill me because
Sorry,
you know,
real person.
I'm
We
going to.
got a show to do. Oh, look at that knife.
I'm going to drop out. It's really cool, though. It's really, really cool. Third game. Now, we talk about this. We talk about this one constantly, right? The Super Collapse 2 is one of our favorite
You talk
games.
about this
I
constantly.
talk about this constantly.
You love this game.
This game is probably responsible for destroying more productivity at the screensavers than any single-handed game. Another game looks really, really simple, right? And we'll go to the traditional version of it. You know, and you're taking out groups of blocks, and depending on how you combine them, you get scores, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's another one that's come out recently.
By the way, this is available for the Mac as well. I've been playing it on the OS 10. Yeah.
We'll go. This is basically in this case you have trial versions. There's an online versions of them. These you can pay some money for if you want to.
Right.
This is going to load
bounce
up.
out.
This one actually has nearly killed one of our line producers. This game. You laugh. You think it's
I
funny.
laugh. I mock it.
You mock it.
Which line producer? Do you want to share a name?
Oh, you You can hear her laughing in the
It was
background
her?
right
Oh,
now.
Allie.
As a matter of fact, do we have a shot of the control room even?
Is she playing it right now?
Probably playing it right
now. No! Allison, you get off of that. You get off of that right now.
Yes, it's all starting to make sense now, isn't it? Now, I've got links to a bunch more games. Mall Monster.
Wait a minute, I want to play this.
You want to play this one?
Yeah.
Here, try this mouse.
Oh, okay. Oh, this looks like fun.
It'll work better. So we got a bunch more games up on the website, flightgear.org. Flight Gear is an amazing open source free flight sim, and you know what? I'm going to let you link up there. I've lost Leo. Head over to screensavers.com. We got the games I just showed you. We've got 3 or 4 more, plus a couple of websites that are amazing sources for cheap and fun and free games.
This is kind of like Bejeweled.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bejeweled.
Yeah,
We've lost another one. Stay where you are. Mike, our next caller, wants to know if routers with all the wireless standards are any good. And up next, the options are endless for what you can do to this picture. See how we turn it into a masterpiece with a little creative thinking.
We can.
It's all coming up when the Screensavers rolls on.
I challenge you, Allie, to a game of Super Bounce Out. Welcome back to the Screensavers. Photoshop can be a little daunting, a little overwhelming, especially if you're a fine artist and new to computers. But Sharon Stoyer says you can use it to brainstorm, to creatively think, and to use it to make your art better. She's the author of a book called Creative Thinking in Photoshop. Really beautiful book. And a new book that's just coming out called The Illustrator 10 Wow book. And we welcome Sharon Stoyer to our show for the very first time. It's good to have you.
Leo.
A little more of a fine art bent to this.
Well, actually, this is applicable to absolutely anyone.
Just brainstorming. You know, I'm very interested in this. We're going to take a very bad old picture and make it something cool.
Absolutely. Let me show you just how bad it was.
This is the original. Well, you can't even see it. There's nothing. There's no detail. So you had a picture. This is a band you liked.
This is a great band.
And you were trying to make it more interesting?
I was trying to find something usable here.
That you could do with it.
Absolutely.
Well, show us the process that you go through, the brainstorming process.
I will.
Okay.
And we're going to show how we get from that initial stage to here.
Okay.
And we're going to use some of the creative thinking ways of working to brainstorm and come up with ideas. And I think you'll see you don't have to be a fine artist to benefit by some of these improvisations.
Right, great.
So one of the things I do when I don't know what I want to do next is I'll just duplicate the image layer and experiment with changing the blending mode.
Now, very good advice to immediately duplicate it, because you're not going to do anything. And any of this stuff, you don't know. It's all improvisational. It might look terrible. So you work on a duplicate.
Always working on a duplicate. And I'm going through
things you're changing, these blends here?
These are blending modes, and some of these appear to do absolutely nothing because I've got this pair of really dark layers.
Right.
But they may create magic for another pair of layers that you're working with or your own image. And wait until you get something that you like a little bit.
So this is just the first thing to do. Just try this little. Look at that. And you saw this and you said, wait a minute, I can do something with that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but it's kind of a little weak. So instead of going on to something else, I tried duplicating it a couple of times.
So you're blending those 4 copies of the same layer, and that it brings up some detail.
And you can try this with even a photograph of yourself. You really can apply it to anything.
But there's some weird color effects and stuff. On the other hand, that could be inspiring, couldn't it?
Absolutely, and it leads me in another direction. For instance, I said, okay, this is interesting, but what happens if I put a real saturated red in the background here?
On that sign there, the
Not
rock
on
and
the
roll
letters,
sign.
but in the background.
Yeah.
And the first thing you do is create a new layer because you don't want to mess up what you've got already.
Always create a new layer.
Always create a new
Now,
layer.
I suppose you could do a mask and do a detailed.
I could do a mask, or I could really try to zoom in here, but that's going to take too much time. I want to move through ideas.
Because a lot of them are bad.
Oh, you have to be willing to throw out junk in order to make discoveries. That's the key to creative thinking.
It's okay to do some bad things. And with this program, it's very easy to go back or to get rid of a layer that didn't work.
We all do. And ask Bert next time if he ever finds junk. I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet he does. It's all jewels by the time he gets here, but yeah, he doesn't leave the
Absolutely.
junk behind.
And when you see the version on the website, it's only going to be the final successful layers. I didn't show you the junk.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in this case, one of the shortcut ways, maybe with your particular image, blending mode will work, and in this one, lighten works perfectly.
Oh, look, it keeps the letters, but the red stays. So you can very easily color in using lighten, and there you go. You got a nice red sign.
Here's the actual one. I'll show you in the normal mode, and you'll see I was really pretty sloppy. Look, I even got some in the bowling pin.
But it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter because it's lighten only.
Interesting.
Isn't that great? So another separate layer to do the blues. That way I could reduce the opacity of the blue layer separately.
And that was because there was too much blue for you, or what?
In that case, I thought there was too much blue at the time, and you'll see it ended up being more later. So change your mind. a little retouching. There's some ghoulish eye stuff happening. And I'm collecting all these layers, which is really great for your creative workflow.
You've got a ton of layers.
It's a ton of layers.
Yeah.
But if you want to apply a filter, you need only one layer. It
You
needs
got
to
to
be
merge
in
them
one layer.
down. Now, see, I always do that, but then I have to undo to go back.
No,
you got
this
an idea?
This is a merged copy, and we show you how to do that on the website.
So you can merge it, but only into one layer,
Into
and
one
you save
layer.
everything else.
So I can go back. If I decide this doesn't work, I can go back.
Oh,
Now,
Sharon,
before
that's
I apply
great.
the filter, what do? I duplicate it first. That way you go back to the merged copy
Make a
without.
copy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those layers are turning out to be pretty darn useful,
It's
actually.
really wonderful. Now this
Oh,
is.
I like that. Now, what did you do there?
This is unsharp mask. Usually use it to do really subtle things, but if you blow out the settings, you just experiment.
You made it very contrasty, and it looks now like an old photo, almost a colorized old photo,
And
really.
I didn't plan it, but it actually works with the Ingrid Lucia Rock and Roll because they're a great swing band. So
But that's kind of the point. You didn't plan it. It's serendipity. And with all art, you try stuff. and
Happy accidents are really what it's
I
about.
think a lot of times people think, oh, computers are very rigid. We have to do it right.
Right.
But no, you can have happy accidents here, too.
In
if you
fact,
know what you're
you
doing.
let the computer and Photoshop participate in your creative process.
Right,
That's really
right.
exciting.
Oh, that's neat.
So then I duplicated that and I applied film grain because I liked the sort of graininess happening.
So it just made it look really like an old photo now. Yeah, I love
So
that.
I'm just keep going with responding, and of course, again, you're not seeing the junk I threw out.
Right, right.
Then
How many layers did you have?
a lot of layers and a lot of versions of this file. I think
Really?
if you see, this is 8.
Yeah,
So it was
okay.
about 8 versions
You went through
of the
8
file.
different versions.
Now, some of them just were tossed out.
Right.
Some of them were incremental versions.
Did
saving them.
Multiply give it that nice hand-colored look?
It
How did
did.
you do
It's
that?
a classic. I'll show it to you in normal mode. You see, I was actually pretty
you colored
loose
it a little
about
bit.
it. I colored it. I'll do one for you. Here's the.
That's a
have the-
nice way to colorize photos.
It's fabulous.
You use Multiply, and then it just gets like the shirt or, oh, that's great.
And here I messed up a little bit. Let me make it a little smaller or get a little green in there instead. There you go. Now, screen is really similar, but it kind of bleaches things a little bit lighter. I'll pop that on and off. And the finishing touches. This is the final version. Again, the final successful layers only.
I love it. The flying neutrinos.
Great
That you
band.
you saved that picture. You couldn't even see anything in there.
You bet.
You can see what you can do. Sharon Stoyer's book is called Creative Thinking in Photoshop. Her website is sstoyer.com. And notice how that's spelled, STEUER.com. And the new book is the Illustrator 10 Wow book, another nice book in the series. Sharon, come back and show us some more. I
Thank
love this
you.
brainstorming.
Great.
This is great. It's
Good.
inspiring. And do stop by thescreensavers.com to learn more ways to think creatively when using Photoshop. Stay tuned after the break. Mike's on the line. He wants to buy a router that does it all. Can we help him? Maybe. Stay tuned. Mike on the line from Tipton, California. Hey, welcome to the show, Mike.
Hi, Leo, Patrick. How are you guys?
We're great.
Excellent.
Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Great. Okay. I've been searching for a high-quality router that will do A, B, and G, and I found 2 different ones, one from Linksys and one from D-Link, and I was wondering if you guys have came across these, have ever had a chance to review them.
Those are the 3 Wi-Fi standards. Of course, B was the original one. Actually,
Right.
nothing was the original one. That was
802.11.
1 megabit.
Right.
And then 802.11b is the 11 megabit. Runs at 2.4 gigahertz. A runs at what, 5.4 gigahertz?
5 gigahertz.
And that's 54
megabits per
megabits, much faster. And then G is kind of the best of both worlds, still running at 2.4 gigahertz,
Well,
but
like,
at 54 megabits.
Just for fun, we pulled up the Linksys site, the emerging wireless G draft standard.
No, because it's not standard yet.
It's
huh?
well, no, it's if you look right here, the emerging wireless G draft standard. Boy, if we could scroll up.
They call these dual band because they have A, B, and G. Wait a minute, that should be tri-band. Well, there's only 2 different frequencies,
Right.
so they're called dual band.
Right.
Now, I think Linksys is fine, and it's what everybody buys. But I have to say, I think D-Link quality is somewhat better.
You know, it's
you have an
really
opinion?
funny. I've got some friends back east who do a lot of work actually dealing with some tunneling into corporate routers and stuff. They had more success with the Linksys software. A lot of people had trouble early on when Linksys first started making routers.
Right.
With them, some of them lasted forever. Some of them disintegrated.
Well, they were
after a
cranking
year.
them out. They had discovered
Yeah.
a whole new market nobody
And-
knew existed.
And they pretty much built it from the ground
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So they get credit for that. I use Linksys at home. I tell you, I'm setting one up for a friend, a radio host here in the city, Ron Owens, and he wants to do this, and I got him an SMC.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if SMC makes dual band yet. If they don't, they will soon. It's a very competitive
Yeah,
market.
right now I think Linksys and D-Link are probably the two most common ones.
Yeah.
Definitely, some of the ones we've heard or had nightmare problems with. Anything Microsoft in their wireless routers and their home networking stuff has been real messy.
Yeah.
Any specific concerns about what you're doing to set these up, or just generally looking for any kind of a recommendation?
Right, exactly. And I even checked with Netgear, and they said theirs is going to be coming out shortly.
Yeah.
Netgear's another good company. I like
we had
Netgear.
great. We had a dual band card actually that we tested recently. Shocked at how good the performance was in the PC cards from Netgear.
I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Don't you really?
It would be shocking to find out that there was that much difference inside of these boxes.
It's pretty much the same.
A big thing is whether or not the company's committed to support and they continue to update the firmware, which is going to be crucial with anything that covers 802.11g, since the spec isn't finalized yet.
Buy the ones that you get the best price on. I think they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I think SMC is kind of the creme de la creme in terms of its built-in firewall support and so forth. Linksys is
but
like
I own an SMC and they haven't updated the firmware in 2.5 years.
Oh man, maybe I bought the wrong one.
So
this is what I have at home. Anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people, I don't know. You say SMC, I say Linksys. Check to see who's been updating their firmware and go with that one.
Yeah.
Stay where you are, folks.
We're going to check the pulse of our viewers, why they're dead, and read your emails and faxes too when the Screensavers continues. Make sure you catch tomorrow's show. David Cohen, the guy who created the Day in the Life series, is going to be here to talk about his new series. They're going to use digital cameras in the hands of amateurs to document life in America. It's called 24/7. It is very cool, and you can participate. Plus, our Dark Tipper is back. Kevin Rose reveals some special software you can use to spy on your friends. How sweet. You better not use that on me, Rose. And turn your PC into a TiVo-like device using free Linux software. If Patrick can get it working, all on tomorrow's show. How's it going? Pretty good?
Slowly but surely. Starting from scratch again. That's my fault, not Freevo's fault, by the way.
Jessica, as always, is in our chat room. And what are they talking about today in the chat room, Jessie?
Talk. We are talking today about a lot about hacking. They want to know how you can tell if your computer is being hacked.
If Kevin Rose has pictures of your most intimate moments, it's been hacked. Actually, that's a good question. You know, Kevin, let's do a segment on that. How to detect hacking, because it's not easy.
For sure.
It is very tricky, yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jesse. Patrick Norton, thank you. That's it for this edition of Screensavers. I'm Leo Laporte.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you again, Sarah Stewart and Dan Hendricks. Good night, folks.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Coming up tonight, inside secrets from Apple. Plus, upgrade your notebook's hard drive. I swear it's fascinating. And don't settle for average, people. Customize your identity in XP with my Windows tweak. Live from the Tech TV studios in San Francisco, it's the Screensavers!
Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us on the Screensavers. We're the only place on television where you can be sure to get live product demos, interviews, tips and tricks, plus computer help.
And crocodile wrestling.
Yes.
Yes.
Today?
Later on. We'll show you. Plus, we have shows packed tonight. It's going to be amazing. We're going to learn some secrets about Apple. I'm going to help you upgrade your notebook hard drives. And Sarah, well, Sarah, tell us what you have.
A neat treat from the P-Tip.
It's a neat treat. A lot of people know about this, but a lot of people still don't. How to change your little user icon in XP. Shows up in your start menu, shows up in your log on screen.
Is that your user icon?
No. They're just
very cool.
Futzing around.
Oh, I know why, because today's Thursday. It's LAN Party Day. Time for the Screensavers LAN Party, powered by
NVIDIA.
NVIDIA. Our resident gamer Joshua Brentano is over in the LAN party. How's it going, Joshua?
It's going fine. We just started playing here, and it's like we talked about yesterday. It's Unreal Tournament 2004, and it's really
great,
really good.
Really love it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Instead of deathmatch, we're playing the Onslaught version, which is where you go from point to point to try to capture the waypoints and then eventually destroy the enemy base. Today in our LAN party, we have a very special guest, actually. One of the World Quake champions, one of the very first, I would almost say, professional gamers, Dennis Fong, a.k.a. Thresh, down at the end.
Yeah.
So, he's the guy to beat today. He's got a new chat client just for gamers that we're going to show a little bit later in the show. Next to him, Dan Allspu and Love and War Hewitt has our X Facers fired up and ready to go. We have, and back again because Robert Heron just can't stop playing video games. One of our favorite lab rats is here in the game today. He's playing against me. That's it.
If there's any room in the game, because I was drive-by assaulted by one of our audience members who said I have to play in the LAN party, so if there's any room in the game at some point. And by the way, I know everybody's excited. The Sopranos debuts on Sunday night. In our audience tonight, I'm so thrilled. Tony and Carmela Soprano here in the audience tonight joining us for this show. Can you get it? Can you get a shot of? There's Tony. Great to have you both in the house.
Oh, you're going to be big in Jersey.
Did you see? You know, Tony's wearing a Scarface shirt with scenes from the classic Al Pacino movies. There it is. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's got little guns for buttons.
Don't bring attention to people.
I'm sorry. Okay, I know people. I know witness protection program.
Right on to the tech news that caught our eye today. Sarah,
what's happening, Sarah?
All right, one of SCO's large financial backers was identified in an email leaked from the SCO group by an anonymous whistleblower. Ready for this? The backer, Microsoft.
Oh.
The amount, $86 million.
That's a lot of lawyers.
That's a lot of dollars. If the leaked email is genuine, it would confirm rumors that Microsoft has been funding SCO's anti-Linux crusade.
Now, we should say this was on Eric Raymond's page. Right. He claims it was leaked to him from somebody inside SCO, but there's no validation for it. I mean, we're just, taking
well,
their word
obviously,
for it.
SCO's not going to go, well, yes, that is a genuine email, and we'd like to thank Microsoft for its more than generous contributions in our fight against the oppressive evil force, IBM.
Well, Eric did point out that, hey, I mean, this at least would give defense attorneys in the lawsuit something to look for. Maybe subpoena some documents, see if IBM can find that document.
And it's not something new. I mean, earlier, not too long ago, it was like the rumors was there had been a $10 million, $11 million, a $50 million investment in SCO by Microsoft.
$86 million.
Yeah, it's a hard one to,
It makes sense. I mean, who benefits from this war on Linux? I won't say, but I'm just going to ask the question.
And you know why it really makes sense? If they gave SCO $1 billion, SCO could just, basically pay out all its shareholders and quit, right? They'd be done.
Right. Well, I mean,
86 is enough to keep them hungry.
We should underscore that there's no proof that this is actually an internal SCO memo. It sure sounded realistic to me.
But if anyone from Microsoft is watching, would like to tell us about whether or not this is true or false, we'd love to hear about it.
We'll give you a chance. Story 2.
It's fun to keep the rumors alive.
It is. I love it. Yeah.
Love rumors. Okay, story 2, more SCO stories, actually. A U.S. federal judge has ordered IBM and SCO to produce their disputed code for the courts. Yes, sir. SCO has been given 45 days to submit the disputed code, which SCO claims IBM contributed to Linux and Unix. The court also ordered IBM to turn over complete releases of its software for deeper scrutiny.
This may be the end of it, right? Finally, if we get to see it, we can decide whether there's merit to this case or not.
Yeah, we've seen some speculative code from SCO that's been posted where they've said this is the proof, and people who are at like their developers gathering were like, this has been open source 3 times. So it'll be nice to see this actually resolved.
Is there any merit to this case? We'll find out. And it's a big deal for Linux users because SCO is now actually going after end users, suing people like Daimler Chrysler saying, we want money, you're using our code in what you thought was an open source product. So we hope this is resolved soon. I think that's important. Finally.
And finally, there's a new development in the hard OCP versus Infinium saga. If you hadn't already been familiar with this, the spat started with a less than flattering article posted on Hard OCP's site regarding Infinium's Phantom gaming console. Infinium had issued several demands to have that article taken down and has been threatening Hard OCP with a lawsuit. Now, Hard OCP is taking legal action of its own, which will force the matter into the courts, hopefully bring about a resolution.
I admire Kyle Bennett's stand on this. Infinium is the maker of this aptly named Phantom game console, and basically Hard OCP said it's a scam. There's no such thing. They never intended to produce a game console, something like that. Infinium said, hey, take that down. That's defamatory. And Kyle said, okay, show us where we're wrong, and we'll correct it. And they never heard. They never came back and said, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. They just said, take it down. We don't like it. So Kyle, asserting his free speech right, says no.
And what's interesting is they finally got a response back from Infinium's lawyers, because Infinium was like, take this down or we're going to sue.
Or else,
right? So the odd thing, they've posted, if you go up to hardocp.com, you can find the information that was put to them. Again, Kyle says, the odd thing to me about the above letter is it continually refers to statements we never made and innuendos that are non-existent in our article. In fact, after reading the letter, I had to wonder if we were actually referencing the same document. So it's pretty serious, you know?
Infinium's a little touchy on this matter, and you got to wonder why.
Well, it was, the article pointed out that there just didn't look to be a whole lot of reality behind the claims for this one.
All right,
interesting stuff. We're going to watch that one.
Leo, I got a question for you real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you forget to do your hair today?
Does it look a little mussy?
Yeah, it looks like you might have just gotten up from a nap. Yeah.
No, I got the wrong wig on. I'm sorry. I'll go fix that. No, this is my nighttime.
You kidder.
My nighttime wig.
Tase the mink. Get the taser. Put that mink back down. Thank you, Sarah.
It's a little messy. I just noticed that myself.
Aren't you glad I pointed that out?
Now he's going to be crimping in the monitor for the next 5 minutes. Thank you, Sarah. Thomas joins us on the phone from Houston, Texas.
Hey, Thomas.
How's it going this evening?
Hey, it's going great. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I got a question about upgrading to Windows XP.
Yes.
You hear this stuff about the activation code and changing hardware and stuff in your computer. I use a IDE removable hard drive rack, and I have installed it a couple times a week to back up my files and stuff.
Good idea.
Is that going to affect the activation on this thing?
Is it in when you activate it, or is it out?
Well, I can put it in or take it out, whenever I need to. But
Windows XP isn't installed on the removable drive, is it?
No.
It shouldn't make a bit of difference at all.
They were saying 4 items four major items have to be changed.
Like your motherboard, your graphics card, your hard drive, and...
We should explain this, because this was a big deal when Windows XP came out, but I don't think we've talked about it lately.
So the idea is, as you install Windows XP, and you get to a certain point, it basically does a survey of your system, generates this really bizarre number, and registers it along with your license number for that piece of software for Windows XP, right?
It's to solve this problem that Microsoft's had, where somebody get one copy of Windows and install it on all their computers in the entire studio, or home. So, and that would be a problem.
We have a site license.
Oh, okay. So this prevents that, because it's tying a copy of Windows to a machine.
And the truth is the idea was they were more worried about, let's say, a company of 1,000 people buying 10 copies of XP and installing it on 1,000 PCs. Because one of the things that I was told early on was like, 2 or 3 PCs.
We don't care that much.
We're not going to really be paying attention.
All right.
So, yeah, the truth is, but the flip side is somebody was like, well, if I upgrade my system, every 6 months, and a lot of people do, is it going to lock my system out? From what I've heard, there's been almost never heard of anybody who did enough, unless, without having to actually completely reinstall Windows XP.
I think we would have heard the howls.
Yeah.
What happens if it says 4 things have changed? It says, I'm sorry, I can't activate you. Please call Microsoft.
Right.
And then you talk to somebody and you say, honest, please, I just upgraded my motherboard. And they'll say, okay, fine. Yeah. I haven't heard it.
They're more likely
they'd come to us.
Yeah, well, if the thing is like, if you, let's say, I don't know, got a serial number off the web and you were the 4,000th person to try to register that, then they'd probably shut you down. Thomas, it sounds like you have absolutely nothing to worry about here.
Fear not.
Okay, man.
How does that work for you, as the removable drive as a backup? Does that work pretty well for you?
Oh, yeah, it works great.
I like that idea. Yeah. It's one of those cases where you put it in the thing and you pull it out, right?
Somebody should tell you about that and about mirroring.
Oh,
yeah,
shut up.
I make a clone of the...
I know you've told me about it. I'm just asking him how it works.
I'm being mean.
Yeah, I make a clone of the hard drive that's in there with it, and if something ever happens...
Great idea.
Just copy it back.
You're ready to go.
The new hard drive if
Very good idea.
hard drive crashes.
Hey, thank you, Thomas. Good luck to you.
Smart, man.
Thank you, Leo.
Take
How about
care.
a book?
Sure, I got a book
Now
for
he's
you.
going to hold it up
Why don't you
on
ask
air?
for Yoshi's book or something like that? I don't think I have any books here. Hang on the line. We'll see if we can get you one.
Thank you. Autograph copy would be fine.
Oh, yes, sure. You want everybody to autograph it? All right.
You want that overnighted, Thomas?
No, not overnighted.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Thomas. Take care. The call screeners are instructed explicitly to say to every caller, do not ask Leo for a book. But no? Can we arrange that for future?
Don't go anywhere.
Still ahead, my friend Patrick here is going to help you upgrade your notebook's hard drive. And up next, how Apple got from this to this. We'll reveal some secrets from this amazing computer company when the screensavers continue. Stay right here. Yeah. Glad he didn't. The story of the evolution of Apple is a fascinating one, but there are a lot of secrets about the Apple folks you may not know. Joining us now, the author of Apple Confidential 2.0, with some insider stories sure to surprise you, Owen Linsmeyer. Welcome back to the Screensavers.
Thank you very much.
Last time you were here was the first edition of this book, which was some years ago,
Over 4 years ago,
A lot's happened to Apple.
Sure has.
It all started with two guys, Jobs and Woz.
Well, that's the story. People think it's Jobs and Woz. There was actually a third founder involved in the company, a man by the name of Ron Wayne. Ron Wayne was brought in to be a tiebreaker between the two Steves. And for that, he got 10% of the company at the time when he was a 41-year-old man and Steve Jobs was a 21-year-old kid.
Right.
And after 2 weeks of Steve Jobs running around the valley getting $20,000 worth of parts on credit, it dawned on Ron Wayne that as a partnership, he was going to be financially liable for any of the debts incurred by any of the other partners. So he decided, I don't think I want this, and he sold his 10% share of Apple for $800 after 2 weeks.
How much would it have been worth?
If he had held on to it and knew exactly when to market time and sell at the top, it would have been worth over $500 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is Ron Wayne these days?
Ron Wayne is currently in the process of emigrating to New Zealand. He's
an embarrassment.
No, actually, as he says, and I believe him, this was the right thing to do, given the information at the time. They were working out of a garage. They were young kids.
I could see why he'd be scared. I mean, you know, these guys didn't even wear shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a grown-up. Nevertheless, that might go down in history as one of the big goofs in financial history.
You might think,
Now, Apple actually is surprising sometimes. And some of the things I read in here, for instance, they made money on the Newton.
Well, in a manner of speaking.
Which one would not have thought.
Yeah, a lot of people think that the Newton message pad was this huge failure for Apple because they never really did anything but pioneer the personal digital assistant market.
Well, they did create the market.
They created the market. They just never capitalized on it. However, one of the untold stories that's in the book is that in creating the company, in creating the product, they decided to buy a large portion of the company that made the chip inside the Newton, ARM Holding. And years later, they ended up selling their investment in ARM for over $800 million profit.
Wow.
When it's been estimated that Apple's probably sunk maybe something in the order of $500 million in the development of the Newton over its 11-year lifespan.
They did all right.
So, and the money was sold, the money came into the company as they were selling it in dribs and drabs when Apple was going through its worst period in the late 1990s.
That was the Emilio Spindler era?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, those were terrible times.
Yes, but the Newton, remarkably enough, was able to help the company get by, not on its own, but based on this investment.
The Newton was not Jobs' creation, was it? It was
No.
It was Scully's creation.
Primarily, it was created under the Scully regime at Apple.
I remember him saying this is going to be a $1 trillion market.
Yeah, I think he said $3 trillion market. But it's
huge. But he wasn't that far. I mean, he was. It's still not a $3 trillion market.
He claims now that he was discussing the entire digital convergence market, including the internet, and if you include that, I'll grant him that he was probably right.
But PDAs turned out to be very much more important than anybody realized at the time.
Exactly, yeah. It just came at a time when Apple was struggling to find its focus, and it was trying to do PDAs, it was trying to get into telecommunications, it was trying to do the Mac as well. And
so it went through, you know, Scully forced Jobs out. Jobs had brought Scully in saying, you know, you don't want to sell sugar water. He was a Pepsi executive. You don't want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life. You want to make a difference? So he brought Scully in. Scully did okay, not great, but then followed by Spindler and Gil Amelio, who really thrashed the company. What went wrong?
Oh, there's so many points in the company's history. If you read the book, you'll find that, you know, you'll see that back in 1985, none other than Bill Gates at Microsoft wrote to Apple and said, hey, you got to license the Macintosh. So he came with them and told them, you know, this is what you need to do to set the Mac as a standard.
Right.
They ignored it. There was times when they could have jumped.
Had they done so, they might have been the Windows of today.
Yeah, because people forget Microsoft now is huge. Back when Microsoft was writing for the Mac in 1984, it was a large company, but it was much smaller than Apple was at that time.
Right. Apple really owned kind of in a way. Certainly they owned the GUI. The story is that Jobs stole that from Xerox PARC. Is that true?
No, not stole it. They got inspiration from Xerox PARC, the Xerox Alto.
Right.
They had visited Xerox PARC in November of 1979, and they got to see the Alto, and the Alto had some amazing new user interface things that they had never seen, the mouse, Ethernet, laser printing, all these things, overlapping windows. But they didn't get the plans to do that. They went back and they said, well, that's obviously the future of computing. Let's do that at Apple.
When you say they, who? Steve?
Steve Jobs, some of the other lead developers. And
how important is Steve Jobs to Apple? Because I noticed that he came back after Apple was just in terrible shape and turned that company around.
Yes.
Do you give him credit for that?
Clearly, yeah. He's critically important to the company. He was the salesman early on when Wozniak was the designer. He pushed the company further and further, to follow its vision with style and coming out with innovative design. He was kicked out of the company in '85, and the company survived without him for a very long time.
It didn't do so good.
Well, yeah, obviously. And he came back, and I think single-handedly was the only person that could have saved the company at the time and did so. So to his credit, he definitely deserves applause for keeping the company alive.
What do you think were the key things that Steve did that turned it around for Apple?
He focused. Apple had been, as I said, trying to do too many things and not doing any of them well, and he decided, that's it, we're going to focus. We're going to get desktop units and portable units. We're going to do professional consumer versions of those, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do great products in the Mac space. They finally got out a new operating system, Mac OS X.
That's been great. And that they got from his company Next.
Exactly. That, to a lot of people credit or fault Bill Amelio and say he, ruined the company. But the greatest thing, to his credit, was he bought Next. He wasn't afraid of the non-invented here syndrome. He bought Next. As a result, Steve Jobs came back as an advisor, and within a year was running the company, and Amelio was out.
Is Steve still getting $1 a year from Apple?
Oh, it hardly matters. He's, a billionaire from his investment in Pixar. So
there was some controversy because the board gave him his own jet airplane at one point.
Right, but he had been taking no salary, had no stock, and really had turned the company around.
He deserves whatever he gets.
Exactly.
Genius, you think? I mean, look at Pixar, great success. Although in fact, you read the book, he may not have had that much to do with it until.
And that may be why it was a success.
In fact,
you talk to some of the founders,
the story that once he realized that Toy Story was going to be a hit, all of a sudden he's very active in the company.
Yeah, well, exactly. The company, he actually tried to sell it to Microsoft after pumping something like $50 million into Pixar over several years. He was ready to sell it, and he didn't share the vision of the founders of creating computer-animated feature-length films. When Microsoft didn't take it, he continued, and when it was Toy Story's premiere coming out and he realized, wow, this is going to be big, that's when he suddenly jumped on the bandwagon and said, yeah, I've seen that all along.
He made himself CEO. He had nothing to do with it up to then.
Right, exactly. But he did found it. He did have the vision to stick with it.
He put $50 million of his own bucks in it.
Exactly. That's a vote of confidence.
Whatever you say about Jobs, and he's certainly a piece of work and an interesting fella, he's definitely got the vision, and he's done a lot of good for both Apple users and for moviegoers. The book is Apple Confidential 2.0, the definitive history of the world's most colorful company. And that I'll give you. Man, what a wacky company it is. If you want to get a copy of his book, you can go to his website, owenink.com, OWENINK.com. There it is. And more links to Owen's work, of course, at thescreensavers.com. Don't get up. There's still more ahead. Dennis Thresh Fong is in our LAN party today. He has a cool gaming trick or two to show you up his sleeve. And up next, swap your old notebook hard drive with a new one without losing a lick of data when the Screensavers continue. Stay here.
About it, but when you buy a notebook, well, you probably don't think about it when you buy a notebook, but replacing a hard drive, it's gotten a lot easier as notebooks have gotten newer. Basically, we're going to show you a bunch of ways, though, to replace your notebook hard drive and talk about how you get your data from your old notebook hard drive to your new one.
Cool.
You're holding like a whopping 512 megabyte hard drive.
Oh, my gosh.
That looks like it's about a 14 millimeter drive, 15 millimeter drive.
They're smaller than this now.
They're a lot smaller than this now. Actually, if you take a look, like back in the day, this is an IBM, you had to take 9 screws out of the bottom of the case.
That's
right?
nuts.
And then you would lift
I guess
off
they just
the
assumed
plastic
nobody
cover.
would ever want to do this.
Exactly. And actually, you know, and you look at this, that you've got down here, and you had 2 more screws down here. And once we got that out of there, don't yank, right? Because if you yank, and I should say never ever, until you know what you're pulling, never yank anything inside of a notebook, because most of your notebooks are connected by these little tiny ribbon cables.
Yeah, that's how I live my life.
And you know, it's good
yank
to know
anything until you know what you're pulling.
You know, that's why you haven't blown yourself up with a hand grenade. But one of the things you want to watch out, any kind of ribbon cable you want to be really careful with on the inside of the system. But you look at something here, right? A lot of the older hard drives are like this. They're like 12 millimeter hard drives. Almost all the new notebook hard drives sold today are 9.5 millimeter hard drives. So if you take a look at that, that's actually the medium size.
So that's a normal one, or are they even smaller?
This is actually, they're even smaller now.
Wow.
And one thing you want to watch out, if you've got an older notebook and you replace it, you need to get a spacer for the top of this, because if you don't, on some notebooks, it will actually rattle around inside of there. But if you take a look, we actually have a newer HP notebook here. I'm going to throw this off to the side.
You know, I opened my iBook, which was late model, and there was no way I was going to be able to get it back together again after taking out the hard drive.
Well, you got to be careful, right?
You have to be really careful.
You know, in this case, we got a.
These are easier.
Yeah, most of the PC, exactly. Look, there's a little, either a door on the side or a hatch like this. You'll flip it over.
Oh, look at that.
And basically, you'll have the notebook will be inside of its own little tiny carrier case, right? And usually there's, you know, we've got a screw over here.
Did you remove a connector, or is that just how it came out?
Basically, most of them, you undo one screw, the carrier slides out, and then to get the notebook.
It's got a snap-in connector.
Exactly, and then you might have to do 1 or 2 screws on the side of this. Well, it's people are starting to realize, yeah, and notebook hard drives in general, right? They're growing at an incredibly rapid pace, and a lot of notebooks that are only a couple years old, they're still running fine, have like a 4 gigabyte hard drive. Right. You know, and if you start carrying MP3s, that fills in really, really quickly. So one of the things you want to watch about those is when you're ordering a new notebook hard drive, there's a couple things you got to worry about. One is that thickness, right? If it's too thin, something like this, you basically want to make sure it's going to fit.
Get the same size as the existing one.
And if it doesn't have,
can you get the older? You probably can't get the 14 millimeter.
No, you can still get. There's really it was known around actually. There's basically Toshiba and Hitachi. Hitachi took over IBM's TravelStar business. They did a sort of a joint venture, and then Toshiba. I hate it when I miss that. There's the last one. There's always, you know, on all the IBMs I have, there's like 2 screws. This one there's like 35. The Hitachi and IBM combined their hard drive business, so they have all the old TravelStar notebooks, and Toshiba is the other company that does most of the portable drives.
So most portable drives are Toshiba, Hitachi, or IBM?
Yeah, Fuji, and actually it's now Fuji, Hitachi, and Toshiba. But if you take a look at this, at the end of this, right, there's a little adapter there, and what's going to happen is almost always if you slide this off, and I can hear Prager wincing in the control room.
Is this his computer?
I'm pretty sure this is his computer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
So props to Prager. So you want to be careful, right? And that's the way, it looks like a regular hard drive, except along with your data pins in there, I don't know if you can see that, you also run your power through this.
Right.
So basically, you know, you want to save the adapter. The adapter is only going to go on and off one way, so don't worry too much about that. Now, one last thing you think about is figure out the maximum capacity your hard drive can handle. Don't buy an 80 gigabyte hard drive if your motherboard's only going to see 20 gigabytes.
How do you know that?
Well, that you're going to have to do a little research on.
Look at the manual?
Yeah, well, look at the manual or call the manufacturer. The thing you want to do, though, is before you start yanking all the drives out, you want to back up your information.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than yanking a hard drive and going,
whoops.
Yeah, the Henderson report.
It's on there.
It's on here. Jimmy, get that out of the Legos bag. There's a couple of ways you can do it. For like the last 10 years, right, since 1992, I've been using external hard drives. First, SCSI external hard drives, and then later on USB external hard drives. FireWire is great now because they're really fast. And the nice thing about that, as I plug this into my system, I keep all my data generally on a separate data partition. Whenever I move to a new hard drive or a new notebook, I basically just grab the old one, I drag all the information off of the old hard drive, and upgrade to the new one. Now, if you want to get fancy, you can start using stuff like PC Relocator. I highly recommend, though, you reinstall the operating system in all your applications.
It's nice to start fresh.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. It saves your settings, but sometimes, you know, things just don't behave when you try to transfer them over this way. And one last thing to copy the hard drive information, the other way you can do it is instead of using an external hard drive, you can actually use a 2.5-inch hard drive adapter.
Oh, so you can just put it in your
right
PC
there.
desktop.
Put it in your PC to copy information over. We've got some links to some software. We actually should hold up one last thing. It's really become common lately.
I love these.
Apricorn, actually, they give you an external USB, and they'll bundle it with a drive and some software. You can actually use their software to back your information off to the old hard drive, basically off the old hard drive, write it on the new hard drive, and then transfer it over. Some people have had mixed results
really?
with the software. I haven't used it. Most people know they're like, a bunch of stuff works, some of the stuff doesn't work, but we love the idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm still, 5 years from now, I'm still going to be copying it off to an external hard drive and reinstalling.
I just buy a new laptop.
Well, you do that every 6 months.
That's right.
To a year. We got details on all the notebook hard drive upgrades. We talked about the screensavers.com. You're driving America's economy.
I am, that's right. Keeping America employed. Let's toss it to Sarah for a quick tip.
Yes, it's an online tip. We know you all love Patrick. That's why we're looking at him. But you also like the dark tips, free downloads, crazy PC mods from my man Yoshi. The web team has generated a list of links to the most popular articles of January and February. Go to thescreensavers.com to find the list and start reading. Go ahead, I'll help you customize your XP user account with my beautiful pick or someone else's. And after the break, our LAN party is in full effect. We'll check in and see who's winning when the screensavers continue.
Coming up, highlights from Photoshop World 2004 with Photoshop expert Bert Monroy.
Plus, we got some amazing network audio toys from your home PC to your stereo wirelessly.
And it's Yoshi's weirdest mod yet, a PC made out of cardboard. We finally get to see it.
Coming up today, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
On the Screensavers.
The worst sound you can hear when you're working on a notebook is this little sound of a little tiny...
Somewhere, and on this floor, you'll never find it. I mean, it looks...
No, it'll turn up someday.
All right, well, good luck.
We'll send out an email about leaving little tiny screws on the floor that get caught up in the camera wheels. Welcome back to the Screensavers.
Leo Laporte.
Patrick Norton. Coming up in this half hour, customize your XP user account with your own pictures of one of us, the Screensavers.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to have...
Hopefully it'll be a good picture.
Tony and Carmela on
And our next caller is wondering,
What's
can
he
you
wondering?
record more to a DVD using lower quality source clips?
The answer might surprise you.
So it depends whether, well, we'll tell you later.
Yeah, don't answer now.
It's Thursday once again. That means it's time to check in with our land partiers, Mr. Brentano. Why aren't you playing?
Well, we're going to get back and play in just a minute, but I've got a solution. I don't have the solution. Dennis Fong, our LAN party guest today, has the solution to one of the biggest problems when you're playing online games is it's hard to keep track of your friends that you meet and that you play with. You don't know what room they're in or even how to find their server.
Yeah, I mean, you just take like Counter-Strike, there's 30,000 game servers just in North America. It's like, how do you, the chances of being on the same server as your friend is like next to nothing.
Right, or typing in the IP address and trying to get there real quick.
Right, or you can try to memorize a 15-digit IP address to get on the same server as your buddy.
And now we don't have to, thanks to you.
So, we have a new solution called Xfire.
Okay.
It's an instant messenger designed for gamers.
Cool.
So it's kind of like a mix between ICQ, All-Seeing Eye, and Friendster, kind of all in one package.
Okay. Best of the best.
That's right. So, it looks like a standard instant messaging client. You see your buddies online, you see your, friends that are not just, it has all the standard IM features. The difference is when your buddy is actually playing a game, a little game icon will show up next to their name.
So those two guys, Ice, and then I'm logged in there.
That's right. So you're logged in over in the computer over there playing on the LAN party. It shows Joshua Tech TV playing Unreal Tournament. You can see the status. So as soon as you start playing a game, next to your buddy's name, his status will change to, playing Unreal Tournament 2004.
So if I change to a different game, to Counter-Strike or Battlefield,
it'll automatically change for you, right?
Cool.
So if you actually just mouse over the guy's name, you could see all the standard server browser info, like, name of the server, your ping, number of players, etc. And again, the #1 hassle for gamers today is to be able to, trying to get a game with their buddies.
Right.
And so what Xfire does is it makes it literally 2 clicks away.
So if you wanted to connect to my game, what do you do?
So, just say, you're my buddy, you're on there, I see you're playing, I want to join your game. All I have to do is double-click your name and click join, and bam, I'm in there.
That's it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the server's completely full right now.
All of our viewers out there.
But, as an example, if I just double-click your name, there's a password, it automatically launches the game for you, and then, you're playing together.
Oh, great. So now you said there's also a Friendster portion, and I was playing with that earlier. Let's show that because it's got a lot of really neat
let me just quit out here.
What games you've been playing? How many hours you played those games?
Yeah, so not everyone has like hundreds of gaming buddies. Maybe they only have 5 or 10 friends that play games. And so what we show you also within the client is your friends or friends who are playing. So just say you log on, Friday night, you feel like playing, but none of your buddies are on. if you actually look down here, it'll show you all your friends of friends who are actually playing. And if you mouse over,
Cap, he's pretty good.
so 3D, you know, these are some of the best, Call of Duty players in the world. You can see who your common friends are, and again, you double-click to join their game. You could also look up their profiles, kind of like Friendster. So just say I want to find out, you know, who 3D Brett is. Pulls up a little profile page, which is loading up right now.
There's too many people trying to get there.
Okay. I think it might be a firewall issue or something like that.
So back when you have the list of players there, go back over there for just a second.
Actually, I think the network just went down.
Well, that's a good reason for us to go back and play. Well, everybody go out and try this. I was playing with it earlier, and it's really nice because it shows all the games that I have and all the games that my friends have, and it kind of does a cross-check and shows what we have in common.
That's right. I mean, Xfire is there so you could see when your friends are playing, what games you're playing, and actually it works for, over, close to 100 games now, and it actually works for EverQuest.
Party
everything
poker.
from, Party Poker to EverQuest to Warcraft 3 to, Call of Duty. We can support basically any PC game.
Great.
And basically you can join them with one click. And one additional feature is that, standard IM clients, while you're playing a game, will crash if you actually receive a message while you're playing.
It kicks you out to the desktop.
Yeah, it kicks you out to the desktop. Well, Xfire won't do that. You can actually receive messages without having a problem.
Well, let's get back over and play since we can't show Xfire anymore. It must be too popular, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do.
But back over here we have Dan, All's Fair, and Love and War. Look, I messed it up. Thank you. And Robert and Heron, I'm going to quit this silly name game. We're going to jump back in and play. You guys go do the show or something.
Or do
Leo.
something. Huh? Stay
Pay
where
attention.
you are. Chris wants to know if he can record more to a DVD if he uses lower quality source clips. But up next, make Windows XP your very own. Sarah shares a nifty little trick. It's all coming up when the screensavers continue. Stay here.
Look at this. So Photoshop World's going on right now, right? And Robert out there, who brought it was a Photoshop World, brought me this. This is a pen, but inside are Photoshop shortcuts. Wait a minute. I have a proclamation from the king. Oh no, isn't that cool?
And you missed him breakdancing during the
That was cool. Now I want to show you something else. Robert, who watches this show, was an illustrator and he did props and stuff. And he watched Bertman Roy, got excited about Photoshop, started learning Photoshop and Illustrator. He just won Best Digital Illustration at Photoshop World for this illustration.
That's an illustration?
That's an illustration. Good job, Robert. Congratulations. Now, see, you watch this show, you learn something. What happened? You broke it?
It's all your makeup and microphones.
My makeup? I don't wear makeup. Let's check in with the fine folks over at Tech Live to see what's coming up tonight. I don't wear makeup, do I, Chris Leary?
Wait a second, hold on. You are a sissy who wears makeup?
No!
What are you saying? Good Lord, here I am thinking that, Leo, you're one of the most manly guys around, and you're wearing makeup? What are you wearing, a skirt, too? Oh, Patrick.
No, that's Patrick.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
Push a little harder, Chris.
I tell you what, both of you guys are probably two of the most beautiful guys I've ever seen, with or without makeup.
Don't forget virile and masculine.
I'll never forget that trip to beautiful Baltimore with you.
So, that was fantastic.
Wasn't that fun?
What's coming up on Tech Live?
Wasn't wearing makeup then, was I, buddy?
No, you weren't.
No,
I wish we all
wasn't.
were. We should have been wearing kids makeup to disguise it.
I wish we had now.
Nothing. Hey, listen to this. I got some stuff coming up for you.
Yes,
Listen to this. Now, some food and drinks out there you just don't like, right? Now, I'm not saying this, but listen to this, man. There's some people out there who believe beer is bitter.
Bitter?
What are these people? Well, it's a New Jersey company that believes it actually has just the thing to block that bitter taste.
I'm bitter,
don't know
but beer?
why. Yeah, we're going to find out more tonight on Tech Live. We'll get to the bottom of this bottle. Story. Of course, you know it's coming up right after your show called The Screensaver.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
The lovely Chris Leary.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Tech Live, right after this show.
You'll never be bitter.
So on behalf of the state of New Jersey, we'd like to apologize for the people trying to make beer taste like Kool-Aid.
Sarah? Exactly. That's called hops. They're bitter. They're supposed to be.
Leo, you've got some really
get out of my
interesting
phone.
pictures in
What do you
here.
look- what do you
There's a
do?
few of me. What is this?
That's on the blog. It's on the Mo blog.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that a great picture? I love that picture.
It's kind of.
That's from the Playboy shoot you guys
It's Sarah's twin. It is not from the Playboy shoot. You're just starting rumors.
I love doing that.
Moving right along. In XP, users have pictures associated with them. You know how it is. It's at your logon screen, and it's also in your start menu. I'll show you what I'm talking about if I just press start here. Yeah, my name's Petite Tipper, and I've got this beautiful chess icon. You know it well. It's one of the defaults that comes with XP. It's very easy to change. I know a lot of people already know this, but a lot of people don't still. In fact, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they said, oh, I hate that stupid chess piece. Well, you can change it. If you just click on the picture itself, it'll show you a bunch of different default icons that XP will give you to change. You can use any of those. I used to like the cat, but then you can also browse for more pictures and choose your own. That's a way more fun. So let's say I want to browse, and I'll just go to my desktop. I'll choose one. There's a picture of one of my eyes, so you can see it here. I go, okay, yeah, that's fun. And now I'm Petite Tipper over here with my eye. Now that's fine and dandy, but it would be kind of nice to know where all these default icons are stored, right? Just what if you wanted to use them for something besides this particular thing in XP? What if you liked that chess piece and you wanted to save it somehow? Can't really do that with the choices that it gives you. I'll show you where it's located. In your drive, documents and settings, you want to go to all users, and then you want to go to application data folder. It's a hidden one, so if you can't find it, unhide your hidden folders. Inside that, go to Microsoft folder, and then user account pictures. And this is where all your stuff is. Obviously, in the default section, these are all your pictures, and now you have better access to them, right? What you can also do is any pictures of your choice, you know, the one that I just used, one of my eyes, and I've got one of Leo over here. I can just drag those in, and then when I go back in and find in my default picture section, there I am, there's Leo holding a cigar. So it's kind of fun. It's just an easier way. You have more control over your own customization. It's a good time. I've also added a bunch of screensaver user pictures to my article at thescreensavers.com. So if you want to go through
investment in Sco by Microsoft.
$6 million.
Yeah, that's a hard one to.
It makes sense. I mean, who benefits?
Be crimping in the monitor for the next 5 minutes.
They had
Toshiba. I hate it when I miss that. There's the last one. There's all
somewhere, and on this floor you'll never find it.
It's really nice because it shows all the games that I
Tech Live, right?
Obviously, in the default section, these are all your pictures, and now you have better access to them, right? What you can also do is any pictures of your choice, you know, the one that I just used, one of my eyes, and I've got one of Leo over here. I can just drag those in, and then when I go back in and find in my default picture section, there I am, there's Leo holding a cigar. So it's kind of fun. It's just an easier way. You have more control over your own customization. It's a good time. I've also added a bunch of screensaver user pictures to my article at thescreensavers.com. So if you want to go through all these steps again, just go there, and then you can choose your favorite screensaver and make it your own icon. I've got Leo, Patrick, myself, Kevin, Yoshi, a really weird one of Dan. I don't quite know what he's doing there. So, you know, it's good time. And email me and tell me who you like the best.
Guess.
Actually, don't tell me.
Guess.
Leo.
No.
Yeah.
No. Petite Tipper.
You know, I have an edge now that I'm the only girl.
Are you the only girl? Wow.
Yeah, I think.
How did that happen? Did we chase them all away?
I think I am. Well, you know.
Well, you're the only one you know
about. It's like if anyone's looking for the girls, then it's automatically me.
You're the one.
I got the edge.
You're the one.
Anyway,
You
I'm
have
done.
the edge.
Go ahead. What's coming up?
Prager's a girl, but that we don't. No, we don't talk about that.
Coming up.
That's not funny.
We insult more of our coworkers, and we tell our net camera Chris if he can get more unrecordable DVDs using lower source clips. Right after these messages.
Something that's funny about that, isn't it?
Coming up next, Tech Live, only on Tech TV.
Be sure to catch tomorrow's show. It's going to be a good one. Photoshop World just ended. Burt Monroy will be here with the highlights. We got a few network audio toys to show off. Allow you to put your music from your computer on your stereo. Plus, Yoshi's back. He's going to show us the cardboard PC. Remember, he injured himself and couldn't show it to us, but now the cut is healed.
The full detail.
And the box is back. That's all on tomorrow's show. Some interesting people in our audience today. 4 youngsters just came back from Net Corps. It's like Peace Corps for Geeks. They were in the Ukraine.
Cool.
And they were helping with IT in the Ukraine. There they are. The guy, get the guy in the white T-shirt too. Yeah, yeah. All right.
Is there a URL for that?
Is it netcore.gov.org? Are they online? .ca? .org. They're Canadians, so that that's very cool. Thank you. We'll get the site up. Chris, meanwhile, on the Tech TV Netcam Network from Sandy, Utah. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Patrick. Hello, Leo. How are you guys doing today?
We're great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Looks like Michael Moore, doesn't he? You must get that a lot.
Not yet. Usually Colonel Sanders.
Oh. That would be later in life, Colonel Sanders. So what can we do for you?
Well, what I've got is I've been taping a lot of shows off of television and restoring them as MPEG-1 on my hard drive.
Okay.
I've got about 80 gigs, and I want to burn them off to DVD. I can make VCDs out of them without a problem, but when I try to put them on a DVD, it wants to convert everything up at high bit rates. When they're right now at
that's
low
because
bit.
the DVD standard is MPEG-2.
Yeah.
So it has to reconvert it to MPEG-2. You cannot make an MPEG-1 DVD.
Yeah, DVD players, they see MPEG-1 on a DVD, they spit the thing back out.
They don't know what it is.
Don't know what to do with it.
So you can have a slower bit rate, but there are some specific settings that you have to have for a DVD as far as the bit rate, the window size, and some flexibility, but you can't get lower than the lowest.
Yeah. You could record the MPEG-1s and play them back on a computer. You could record the MPEG-1s and create a VCD,
data.
But you can't make a VCD DVD that'll play in your consumer electronics DVD player.
But stick with the VCD, because most consumer electronics DVD players will play VCD, or many will anyway, the late model ones will play VCDs.
Unfortunately, you get to carry around, let's see, 4.7 divided by 600.
Exactly, a lot more. I've got about 80 gigs worth of television shows. It'd be nice to archive them off to DVD if I could.
There you have it.
I mean, you could. You're just not going to be able to put that DVD in your DVD player. You'll be able to play it back on a computer, no problem.
I can get about 3 hours now, but not much more than that.
Yeah, I think that's probably about the max. Tsunami MPEG encoder, free program. I highly recommend. It'll help you compress it to the minimum that you can do. They have presets for DVDs, and you can actually say, I want to have the lowest quality possible DVD.
There's something you don't hear very often.
Well, it's a TV show,
Good luck,
ephemera, as we say. Thank you, Chris. Stay where you are. Coming up next, we're going to check our inbox, see what's on your mind, and when the screensavers continue, stay right here.
Come see the show in person. If you're going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area and you'd like to join the screensavers live on the set, go to www.techtv.com/ticketline for information and to request tickets. So then, so we can see you here.
Let's take a look at the high scores from each round of our LAN party.
Powered by NVIDIA! Fascinating.
Wow.
Okay, well, congratulations. There we go.
Hey, TSS Joshua.
What?
Back on the warpath. TSS Robert.
Robert, look at that.
Wow. I sense a great, angry competition coming together. Terminator, they've given Hittori and the Great Destroyer. Fine efforts.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thresh for coming by to show his new stuff.
Where's Thresh on that chart?
This is
not there.
Okay.
He will be.
Not going to say anything?
He's getting there.
You getting there?
To play this week, go straight to our website.
You didn't frag Thresh, did you, Foo?
I register for next Thursday.
What's that?
You didn't frag Thresh, did you?
No.
Okay.
I got him once.
Did you?
Actually.
That's got to be good. That's bragging rights.
You know, Thresh is actually more of a hustler these days.
Oh, yeah.
Later
Come on, kids. Let's play a game. Is there any emails in there?
I do. This is a good question from Brad. Is there a difference in performance if you've got a 512 stick of RAM or two 256s?
That's a great question.
Any difference?
It depends on what kind of motherboard you have. Some motherboards want you to use 2 sticks of memory, like one in each of the dual.
Then they interleave them.
Yeah, and that makes
would
it
be
run
faster.
faster. But in most cases, it's like a notebook or something where you only have 2 slots.
Right.
You can't upgrade if you have both memory things. You have to throw out one of them and replace it if you upgrade your memory.
But if you look for RAM interleaving, if you do have interleaved RAM, it's like RAID. I mean, it'll actually speed up your RAM. Yeah.
It's a good thing. That's it for this edition of the Screensavers. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm off. I'm going to be doing Regis on Tuesday. I'll be back here on Friday. Thanks to our guests, Owen Linsmeyer, Dennis Thresh Fong, and download his client at xfire.com. Robert Harrington. See you later. Have a great night.
Coming up tonight, the ultimate advice and
comparisons on the camcorders you may want. And Patrick shows you how to broadcast your very own radio station. Plus, get a preview of the brand new Battlefield Vietnam. Live from the Tech TV studios in San Francisco, it's the Screensavers.
For joining us. This is the show. It's just a jam-packed show of technology, our Manic Monday edition. Wish it were Sunday.
Over 7 cups of coffee have been consumed by each of our hosts. So tonight, we have an amazing show.
You know why I drank so much coffee? I don't know about you, but my daughter's 12th birthday today, and on Saturday night I had 12-year-old girls sleeping in the barn. 4 in the morning. Do you remember when you were 12, Sarah? 4 in the morning, I got up to go and say, sleep! Yeah, I think you are. You look like... Were you at the party?
You awake?
Huh? Giggling.
Don't you have like a $9,000 set of noise-canceling headphones?
Piercing giggling.
Those on?
Yeah, but the problem is when your wife goes, get up and get them out of sleep, the headphones don't do nothing.
Got it.
Yeah.
By the way, we're going to talk about, FM broadcasting, whether or not you can do a low-power transmitter. I'm going to be talking about that.
Radio-free paprika.
Paprika, I like that.
Yes.
We got Rob and Liz at camcorderinfo.com. Going to talk about how they test cameras.
That's going to be fun.
And Dan, that's a special bit of information.
What were you up to this weekend, sir?
Oh, sorry, guys. I'm installing Linux right now, by the way.
Oh, is that what you did this weekend?
That's what I did for my weekend.
Installing
my
Linux
Saturday night,
opening.
yes. Oh, just wanted to let you guys know that next week is Robo Week.
Yes.
Robo Week.
Robot Week.
All about robots. And I actually shot a couple packages last week for the Robo Olympics, so
good.
Want you to come and check that out.
Yeah, I had
It'll be crazy.
Was it fun? Was it really fun?
It was awesome.
First field packages. Oh my God! I'm so excited.
Our little boy is all geeked up.
But hey, we also want you to call us. Our phone number is 888-989-7879, and also to email us at thescreensavers@techtv.com.
Very nice, thank you very much. Let's start with the tech news that caught our eye today. Sarah Lane has the top story.
Yes, I do. There's a new bug to report, as if there wasn't one every Monday. The latest bug making its way across the internet is the witty worm.
Witty?
But it's really not very witty. It's just annoying. The worm attacks 2 ISS products, Black Ice Defender and Real Secure Firewall, spreading via a bug in both.
Isn't that wacky?
The graphics.
I love the witty worm. No, but seriously, folks, I want to tell you, the
at the improv.
At the improv.
Genius.
Yeah, seriously.
Who did that? Moynihan or Michelle?
How about those?
Can we get an applause for the graphics? Go Scott.
What's the deal with Trojan horses? So this is a weird one because you'll install Black Ice Defender or Real Secure, and you want to be. You think I'm making me safer?
Pointed out for a long time ago. There was definitely people were saying Black Ice Defender not such a good firewall.
Yeah, but nobody implied that it was opening a door onto your system.
Well, here's the thing. Any application, even one designed to protect your system, can be exploited if there's a hole in it.
Now, IIS, the company, released a patch last week. So the deal is, if you're using Black Ice Defender or Real Secure, update it, patch it, and you'll be fine. But meanwhile, I guess you should make sure you run an antivirus program from another company to see if you got the worm.
Oops.
The witty worm.
Here's a
dumb criminal. Let's hear that story. I like dumb crook stories.
This is fun. An enterprising programmer attempted to extort $100,000 from Google by blackmailing them. The coder had threatened to release software that takes advantage of Google's advertising system. Could have cost Google a lot of money, but the Fed set up a sting and apprehended the alleged bad guy. Why do people do things like this?
This is so stupid.
Why?
This guy wrote a bot, right, that clicks on the Google ad links, right, and click, 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 so that, you make a lot of money from Google, even though nobody really bought any ads. Then he sets up a meeting with Google at their headquarters and sits down with them at the conference table and says, okay, how much you going to give me now? Huh? I'm going to release this to the world.
$100,000.
And the Fed worked. It could have worked if the Feds hadn't taped the whole thing. Anyway, allegedly, he did that.
Maybe he didn't.
Maybe he didn't. It's only alleged. All right. I'll never be a good newsman. You see, I can't keep the straight face. The perpetrator allegedly wrote a program. Allegedly. We don't know for sure. He's innocent till proven guilty. But we got the tape! All right. Thank you, Sarah Lane, for those fascinating... Wait a minute, there was another worm, though, wasn't there? That wasn't the only worm.
Yeah,
there was a semantic flaw. We should say that it's not just IIS. Norton Internet Security had a problem as well that allowed an attacker to get into. So we don't want to sound like we're biased one way or the other, but there was also a problem with... We'll find that. Hold on. We want to get that straight. I don't want... Allegedly, there was a problem. Tyler on the line from Dallas, Texas, allegedly talking to us from Dallas, Texas. Hello, Tyler.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
I had a question about my iMac. It recently lost all of its data.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I had to reinstall Jaguar all over again from the OS X boot disk.
Okay.
And I was talking to a guy through your forums and over the tech chat, and he recommended a program called Disk Warrior, and I was wondering if
from Alsoft.
What basically is a good program that I can use to not allow that to happen again?
Well, I mean, it's like a disk tool. It's a disk recovery tool, yeah?
Do you ever hear us say back up your data, Tyler?
That would be the thing to do, yeah.
No. Everybody can laugh, right? Because it's not your 10 gigabytes of data that is lost to the universe. It's not you going, oh, well, my graduate degree can wait another 2 years while I, recompile all this or whatever it is, right?
That happened to my wife. Yeah. She lost her master's degree.
Nearly happened.
Her master's thesis. Yeah. Really?
Yes.
It's bad news.
Yes, bad news. Here's the thing, Tyler. The reason we say back up your stuff, get an external hard drive, burn it to CDR, burn it to DVD-R, do something, is because in a lot of cases, if things go horribly, desperately wrong, right, barring the invention of a time machine, you're never getting that data back, okay? You can try to recover it. You can try to, if a disk crashes or stuff you can do before you reinstall Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Yeah, I upgraded to Panther recently, so.
But it's like, sorry,
We like Steve's pronunciation.
There's Jaguar.
It's pronounced Jaguar. Jaguar.
I mean, here's the thing, though, Tyler. Is what can you do? You run a good hard drive. You run disk tools.
Queer pronunciation for the geek guy. Never mind.
Let's go.
Sorry, I even brought it up.
Over a lot of
Jaguar. So there is a review of disk tools. There's three big disk tools. There's the from the Tech Tool Pro guys, Micromat. They do Drive 10. There's Norton has a Norton System Works for Macintosh, and then there's the Alsoft programs. There is a recent review in Macworld of all three programs. I think they liked, as I remember, they liked the Norton best, but I'd have to check to see. They all do about the same thing. But it's not going to help you
even if you run those tools. All it takes is a 12-year-old brother pushing your iMac off of the table,
hard drive dying,
or the hard drive dying, or an electrical blast in the neighborhood. There's a lot of stuff that can kill your hard drive.
But I think the Disk Warrior is a good. And actually, they may have liked the Disk Warrior. I'll tell you what. I will look up and see which one that they reviewed and they liked the best.
We'll get back to you with that later.
I don't use any of them. I just back up.
Right.
And I haven't had any trouble with my hard drives in a while. So knock on whatever this is, rubber. Still ahead on the show, the deals and steals in the Sunday Tech Ads. And after the break, Robin Liss from camcorderinfo.com. She's my personal camcorder guru. Will show us how they test and compare the camcorders for their reviews and what you should know about your next camcorder purchase. Stay right here. There's no doubt when you buy a digital video camera, there are many things to keep in mind. I often go to Camcorder Info to find out which ones are the best. Robin Liss is here. She's the founder and president of Camcorder Info. She's going to talk about how they test cameras and some new things about cameras. Welcome, Robin.
I'm glad to be here.
Is it okay to say, how old were you when you started this website?
I was 12.
12?
Yeah. We try to be about that.
12?
Yeah.
How come? I mean, were you like into cameras?
Yeah, I enjoyed shooting video. I actually love doing claymation with my home video camera.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I started writing about it on the web, and then it just grew and grew.
Now you have a staff now, yeah? You don't do it all yourself.
We do, yeah. We have two full-time staff members.
That's really
Tony
great.
and Nathaniel, they're great.
We're going to see which one are we going to see in the
Tony's in the video. He's our managing editor of Pro
That's
Video.
Great. So you do, how many camcorder reviews now do you do?
Well, we try to review every single camcorder that's on the market, so 40 to 50 every year.
And you test them all? all?
We do. We do extensive testing, so the users can have guidance in making their purchases.
That's something I think is very important. You can have, especially with something like a camcorder, a subjective opinion and say, well, this looks good, but it really is helpful to actually see some numbers. How do you make your subjective opinions more objective?
Well, as camcorderinfo.com, we believe that the most important thing about any camcorder is its video performance.
Yeah, of course.
How the picture looks.
Yeah.
All the other things are great, but if your video doesn't look good, it's going to be useless.
So how do you test it?
Well, we have a scientific process that we've developed that tries to minimize the human error so we can compare the video performance of the different camcorders.
We have video. This is what you took a tent? What did you do here?
Well, what we did is we took an army tent, actually, and we bought special film fabric that's designed to absorb light, and it makes it pitch black in there.
So it's the kind of the video equivalent of an anechoic chamber.
Right. It's very, very dark. It's about a 14 by 12 tent.
And then you're using this special chart?
Right. We have special lighting. One product is the Cameo Kino Flow. It's designed to do low light. And we also have some lights that make it very, very bright. Now, this chart here is the same chart that HBO, NBC, ABC, all the television networks use to calibrate their camcorders.
So here he's seeing if what the light level is. Now, why do you test it in different light levels?
Well, what we're trying to do is look at the camcorder under a variety of shooting conditions. Okay. We do one test that tries to mimic outdoor lighting, where the camcorders perform their best.
It's very bright.
But where the camcorders, where kind of the men are separated from the boys, if you will, in camcorders, is when the lights are turned down. A lot of people don't really understand that the low light performance is what really counts in a camcorder.
Historically, digital camcorders have never done very well in low light.
Consumer camcorders in general don't do great. Especially your camcorder is not going to see as well in darkness as your eye will.
What happens? It gets grainy? It does.
It gets grainy, and the image is just not able to produce like you can. And the other thing is that most consumers don't really understand what low light is.
Well, let's show them. You have some images here, some test images. This is in bright light, right?
Right. Here is two camcorders. The Canon GL2, which has quarter-inch CCDs.
Okay, it's quarter-inch. Is that big?
That's pretty big.
Okay.
And the VX2000, which is by Sony, now it's replaced by the 2100, that has third-inch CCDs.
That's even bigger.
Right. These are some of the top-of-the-line consumer camcorders that go for around $2,000.
They look pretty much the same, though, right?
They do.
This is the bright light.
What you're seeing here is the great Canon optics at work, where the GL2 really has outstanding colors. Look at that green tile in the bottom left corner.
Okay, it is a little bit more vibrant, isn't it?
Right, and that's a Canon optics at work.
Hard to tell on TV, but you can see the difference.
Right, they're pretty equal.
Now, let's turn the lights down.
Right.
Now, low light doesn't necessarily mean like a dark room. A birthday party or even any time you're indoors.
Anytime you're indoors, we consider low light. Now, if you look here closely, I would recommend looking at, again, the green tile. Compare the green tile on the VX2000 to the green tile on the GL2, or that yellow tile. See how it's much brighter on the VX2000?
Why is that?
It's because the VX2000 has a third-inch CCD, which is much larger than the quarter-inch CCD on the GL2.
Well, that makes sense. The CCD is the thing that's picking up the light,
It's the thing that converts the image coming in through the lens into an electronic signal.
So the bigger it is, the more light it would receive.
Right, more photons come in to each pixel, which means a brighter image and more information.
When you're looking at consumer-level camcorders, the sub-1000, how big are those CCDs?
They vary. We sometimes have quarter-inch CCDs, but they're usually somewhere between quarter and a sixth-inch.
So the less expensive camcorders have worse low-light performance.
Well, what happened is that the camcorder manufacturers want to make camcorders smaller. So to fit a smaller camcorder, they have to shrink the CCDs, which, as a result, lowers the low-light performance.
So they think we want smaller cameras, but we still want good low-light performance.
Smaller camcorders means worse low-light performance. It's really too bad.
We have some one more test picture. This is comparing, on the left, a 3 CCD camera.
Right.
Now, does 3 mean I get 3 times more brightness?
Well, what 3 actually means is that there's 1 CCD for red, 1 for green, 1 for blue, which means you get better color definition, but it doesn't really help in low light.
But you see the better color here.
Right. The Panasonic, you can just tell the colors are more fair and even. Look at the teal tile, which is on the bottom center. Compare it on the GF70 to the 39.
So the 39 is a single CCD.
It's a single CCD, but if we look at the dark, low light.
Turn down the lights now.
You can see nothing. You barely see anything. This is a consumer camera, and these aren't terrible conditions. It's pretty light. But if you look very closely, you'll see that the 39 is better because the 39 has a 4.7-inch CCD and the GS70 has a 1/6 inch.
Interesting. So even though it has 3 CCDs, they're smaller, so the low light is not as good.
Right.
Better in bright light, but not as good in low light.
So if low light is incredibly important to you, you might not want to look at the 3 CCD camcorders, the low-end 3 CCD camcorders, and go more for a large CCD camcorder.
This is the GS70 that you were talking about, the Panasonic. You do like it, though, right? I mean,
I love it. The GS70...
Actually, this is the 200, which
right.
is
This
similar.
is the GS200. It's not available yet. It's going to hit stores pretty soon. This is replacing that camcorder that we saw up there. There's a $300 less expensive version of this camcorder that you can buy. It will be available, called the GS120.
And that'll be about, what, 400, 500, 700?
That'll be $700. It's really revolutionary what Panasonic is doing. Right. You couldn't, before Panasonic introduced these camcorders, you couldn't find a 3 CCD camcorder for under $2,000.
So, but don't expect great low light performance.
No, definitely
Okay, good in bright light. Big announcement at CeBIT last week, which is the big trade show, the Consumer Electronics Show in Hanover, Germany. HD camcorder from Sony.
Yeah, huge news.
Now, this is not new. I mean, this is a JVC HD camcorder that came out last year, right? But look at, actually, we're showing it to the Sony right now.
Right. This is the Sony 3 CCD camcorder. They showed a prototype at CeBIT.
Okay.
They barely gave us any information.
So you haven't played with it yet?
No, haven't played with it. But
Price?
Our sources inside of Sony didn't say anything official,
right.
but our sources told us that it should be priced under $5,000.
That's pretty good. 3 CCD.
Very good.
I mean, HD. That's a 3 CCD. This is HD also, though, right?
But this is 1 CCD.
This is the one that was out
first. It
first.
was a revolutionary camcorder. It was a big deal. You know, JVC should definitely be applauded for, you know, putting out the first HD consumer camcorder, but the low light performance is not great, and consumers were kind of apprehensive about buying it.
Is the camcorder world going to go to HD? Should I just wait and buy an HD camcorder?
You definitely shouldn't wait. That Sony that we saw, you know, is going to be under $5,000. It probably won't be on the market for months and months and months, and you're not going to see sub $1,500, sub $1,000 HD camcorders for a while.
But that's a peek at the future.
A peek of the future, for sure.
Rama's going to come back tomorrow on Call for Help and show us how we can get some inexpensive sub-$500 camcorders that do give us low light performance. Right. That'll be on the Call for Help show tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, you can read all about it, as always, at camcorderinfo.com. She's got reviews of everything we talked about, plus hundreds of other camcorders. We link to it from the screensavers.com. Rob and Liz, it's been great to talk to you. Come back tomorrow. We'll talk some. You'll give us some buying advice, okay? All right. Still to come, Patrick shows you how to build your own FM radio station out of your garage or your kitchen. And coming up next, bargains or deception. We'll check out this week's Real Deals when the Screensavers continue. Welcome back to the Screensavers.
Yes. Normally we actually do. We bring out the paper ads for the Real Deal.
The Real Deal. It's the Sunday ads.
Today, though, we're going to do something a little different, a little more personal, a field trip, as it were. I was helping a friend of mine shop for their first cell phone this weekend.
First cell phone.
Yes.
That's a special time.
It is. And you know what? It wasn't like I wasn't with them at the time. It was one of those like, I'm in the mall and I hate everyone and I never wanted a cell phone anyway. You know what I mean? You ever getting that phone call?
Well, it is overwhelming. You cannot tell. The deals are all over the place. You can't match prices. You can't compare.
So I've basically come up with some of my top tips for not getting burned on buying a cell phone.
Buying a cell phone without getting burned.
1. Research online. Don't research in the store.
Yes, that's
right.
True.
There's basically, 4 major cell phone providers. We got Sprint, PCS, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile.
Yeah, actually, there's more than 4. There's Singular, Nextel. It goes on and on.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Now, in some cases, you'll walk in and, let's say any 4 of those will be represented at any given superstore, right? Maybe 2 of them are available at Radio Shack, 4 are available at the mall. As many as 5 or all of them will be available in kiosks in the mall.
That's right.
All right. And if you're walking around, this is not the time to be going what's your basic charge for a national plan that has unlimited long-distance calling and no roaming? Because they're either going to know it or they're not.
Right.
And that brings us up to tip number 2. The salesperson word is not gospel.
Don't listen to them.
Yeah, because
it changes all the time. They may not even know the answer.
And they may have known it this morning. It may have changed by this afternoon.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you never know when they're being spiffed on a project, which is basically being given an extra bonus, right? If
they might be pushing a particular product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times, if you ask them, why do you want me to buy this? You told me that it doesn't work very well in my area, right? But
I make $100 more.
Exactly. Or maybe it's even $5 or $10.
Right.
Ask your friends, right? There's a horror story. We can go in this room right now and find a horror story for every wireless provider. Actually, between you and Kevin, we can find a horror story for every wireless provider. Yeah. But ask people where they use their phone, how old their phone is, because the older the phones are, the less well they tend to work, and what kind of customer service.
What should I be asking about? Coverage?
Coverage.
Okay. Customer service, you mentioned.
Customer service.
Should I worry about price?
You know, yes and no. It really depends. You know where the price gets really interesting? You know, is when you actually look at when you're looking at high-end phones, right, and where they're subsidizing a huge amount of it, and when you're looking at a 1-year versus a 2-year commitment to that particular provider.
And then there's always minutes, which can make you insane.
Especially since your minutes started. It's now like for Sprint, there's now a $5 difference between getting your free minutes, or your unlimited minutes starting at 7 versus starting at 9. Which brings us to let me go over a couple more. We got a whole bunch of stuff up on the website. We can talk about this. The Leo Factor, right, which is the latest and greatest cell phone that has the most features, is expensive. The price will rapidly drop, and because it's so complicated, it may not work very well. You may be beta testing that phone.
That's my job, and I love it.
The Patrick Factor, hidden fees, activation costs, taxes costs, monthly charges, individual charges, state charges, federal charges, the portability charge. It says $40. I dare you to find a $40 a month cell phone that actually is
costs $40. Well, that's the $20 plan.
Ask around. Do your research at home. Call the 1-800 number. Call the individual salespeople.
The websites are great for this, though. You can at least go from website to website.
Paper brochures are nice, and I love it. Like, this is a great one. Please read carefully and file in a safe place. This is a return policy for Verizon's phones.
Well, that's the one I lost right away.
Do your research at home. Make your decision before you go to buy it.
Ask your friends is a very good advice.
Go to thescreensavers.com, click on the show notes, get the tips, get more tips we didn't even talk about here about not getting burned on your cell phone.
Now, Dan has a helpful tip for us. Mr.
Yes, I'm here. Photoshop, without a doubt, is the king of image editors, but it's not cheap, of course. If you'd like to save your money, you're in luck because we have a list of free Photoshop alternatives. Go to the show notes at thescreensavers.com for details and links to download them all. But don't go anywhere. We're playing Battlefield Vietnam this Thursday. We're giving you a sneak peek today. But after the break, all you aspiring DJs out there, listen up, because DJ Pat's going to show you how to build and broadcast your own FM radio station. All that when the Screensavers comes back.
I'm Leo Laporte.
And I'm Patrick Norton. I don't do that voice as well as you. Coming up in this half hour, learn some inside tricks on this week's LAN party game, Battlefield Vietnam.
Yes.
We're going to help Mark hook actually 2 computers to 1 computer and one monitor and 1 mouse and 1 keyboard.
You know why I was doing this? Because we're going to show you how to make your own radio station.
We're actually going to talk about whether or not you can really broadcast your own FM radio station.
Is it legal?
Right? I love it when you're like Walter Cronkite and
Is it legal, Patrick?
We've got Bob on the line from Korea. It's very faint. Actually, a lot of you must be interested in this because they just went to launch a Ramsey Electronics site, which is where this all came from, right? Ramsey makes kits of all sorts. Well, apparently y'all jumped on Ramsey Electronics site simultaneously.
Because it's down.
So sorry about that, Ramsey. Here's the thing. We started looking around. We love kits. We love build-it-yourself kits. We found a couple of them. FM 100B, the Super Pro FM stereo radio station kit, which is this fabulous box right here, which sells for $260 in kit form.
That's not bad.
It's pretty nice, actually. Basically, it's got all the controls I don't know how to use. It's pretty basic, actually.
So it's a little transmitter?
It's a little transmitter.
Is it like legal power, or does it matter?
Well, that's where it starts to get in there. So we got another one here, actually, the FM25B, professional synthesized FM stereo transmitter kit, actually. It's a Volvo
radio.
This is a radio.
Sorry.
Ignore this
That's
part.
how we receive
But we wanted to show you one of the kits. Basically, in a matter of hours, right? If you can solder, in a matter of hours, you can put together one of these kits, or you can buy them pre-assembled. One of the nice things about Ramsey is if your kit doesn't work, they will actually...
They'll fix it?
For I guess it's about $36 an hour, they'll actually figure out what you didn't do right about it and put it together.
But this would be a fun project to do with it.
Yeah, it looks a little scary, right, when you start to look at it. 'Cause it's like, oh, it's the circuit board layout. They have nice instructions. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of soldering skills.
Teach me about that in the Columbia School of Broadcasting, not affiliated with CBS.
The closed cover before striking School of Heavy Machinery and FM Broadcast. But the thing is, right, yes, it works, just to answer your question.
Is this your radio station?
This is actually running off of this right now.
That sounds pretty good.
It does sound pretty good.
So are you feeding MP3s to it?
We're basically feeding MP3s off of this system right over here.
I love that.
It's just that simple, because you can basically run your stereo lines into the back of the system.
Wow.
Now, where it starts to get interesting is basically whether or not it's actually legal to do this.
Well, aren't there rules about? And I noticed, by the way, when you turned it, it's low power enough.
Well, I don't have a proper antenna.
Oh, you don't have anything hooked up. Oh, okay.
Right, because with a proper antenna, it's interesting. Basically, yes, it's legal to run these, and I am not a lawyer, right? But it's legal to run these as long as you don't interfere with anyone's enjoyment of an existing licensed FM radio station.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, if you really want to play on 105.3 here in San Francisco, and your downstairs neighbor really likes listening to Howard Stern on 105.3, they can call up the FCC and have you shut down.
So if you're going to interfere with a crappy radio station, because then nobody will mind.
You radio guys are catty. Catty, I say.
So,
well, here's the thing. Basically, it's one of those things where, if a radio station broadcasts in the woods and nobody hears it, it's legal.
Oh, that's
right?
interesting.
If you're 50 miles, and I say that loosely, right? If you don't have a license for your radio station, you have no rights over any licensed broadcast. So one of the things to do is you need to find if there's an FM station broadcasting locally, and to make sure you don't interfere with it.
We have a little pirate station in my neck of the woods. It's great music, and you can only hear it within about a few mile radius. Doesn't interfere with anybody, and it's fun. It's neat.
Exactly. But if it was interfering with somebody,
then he'd be in trouble.
And technically, the FCC may now start wandering around your particular neck of the woods, which I won't mention right now because we know the FCC watches.
Right.
So if that radio station gets shut down, everyone in your hometown will know.
I called the guy up because I could tell it was a pirate station, and I said, "Hey, this is really cool." We talked for a while. And he said, "You want to DJ for me?" And I said, "I don't think my buddy Michael Powell, chairman of the FCC, would really appreciate it if I went to work for you. But I like what you're doing."
Here's the thing. Low-power transmitters, there actually is low-power transmissions basically for community groups, like if you're a school that wants to broadcast over a few miles. And what's interesting is for outside of the U.S., they actually sell a 1-watt upgrade for this. And with the
so this isn't even a watt.
This isn't even a watt. But you know what? Okay. You can easily, with a decent antenna, you can cover a few hundred to 1,000, maybe 1,100 acres really easily. If you're on top of a hill with a decent antenna, you know what I mean? It's like you look at it, it's not even a watt. But you know what? There's ham people who covered thousands of miles with a good antenna on the right frequency.
This sounds like fun.
It is fun.
It's kind of the next step from having your Winamp playing on your home. You could even do it for just the house.
These are, and that's what actually Ramsey really sells, these like stereo FM transmitters. If you want to broadcast your music in your house, this is a great way to do it. FM 25B probably be the way to go. This is the kit. Like I said, a few hours to put it together. I didn't put it together because they need the parts back. And
I might do this. This looks like a lot of fun.
Cool stuff. We got basically links to the radio kits, my I am not a lawyer legal information. Basically, you know what? If you want to do it right, you get an engineer and you read Part 15 of the FCC rules. We're not going to talk about that too much on air. It's good stuff.
The key is, though, in my opinion, if you cup your hand behind your ear, that's how you sound.
You have to make the pained face?
Yeah, you have to look like you're really working. Now, listen up. If you want to win some money, Sarah has the details.
You could be Tech TV's next winner of a $25,000 shopping spree or 500 daily cash prizes.
Hey, it works.
Yeah. Watch Tech TV every night from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Look for the Tech TV Digital Digs Den Sweepstakes commercials, which contain Tech TV secret codes. Each time you see a different clue, go to techtv.com/digital digs to enter. There are 4 new codes each night with 4 chances to enter each day, starting today through March 28th. Remember, this is the last week to enter, so be sure to watch and play every day. Now, stay where you are. We'll give you the lowdown on hooking up a monitor and mouse to 2 separate computers. Isn't that tomorrow?
And after the break, take a look at our new land party game, Battlefield Vietnam, when the screensavers continue.
Let's check in with the fine folks over at Tech Live to see what's coming up tonight.
Patrick, let me tell you something. They're not made of flesh and blood, nor are they aiming for gold and Athens, but these bots are certainly battling to be the best.
Robo-Olympics!
There it is. You like that?
I like that.
Yeah, so now on Tech Live, we're actually going to take you to the Robo-Olympics, as Patrick just said. Yeah, hundreds of robot enthusiasts gathered for a two-day competition that featured robots to play soccer, even sumo wrestling. If you look really closely, you see a robot wearing one of those sumo diapers.
Did you go?
No. Did you? You sounded like you were there.
I didn't go, but actually, Dan Hewerdiggs, we're going to do a big thing on this for Robot Week. It's going to be amazing.
Kidding.
Not as amazing as your package.
When's Robot Week?
Robot Week is actually next week, week after next on the screen.
So were you down there?
I wasn't there. Dan Heward was there. I was actually down at DARPA for the Grand Challenge.
So you guys are everywhere we want to be. Well, we'll give you a little taste of what Patrick's talking about and that Robo thing that he's going to do. This Robo Olympics, of course, is after the screensavers.
Chris, you rock, man.
Real guys made of flesh and blood, not robots. The screensavers.
You're such an Olympian. That's what's coming up on Tech Live right after this show. Right now, though, it's time to toss it to Leo with a sneak peek of our latest LAN party game.
Ah, yes, our newest LAN party game was released, believe it or not, just 1 week ago today. It's the sequel to Battlefield 1942, which has been one of the most popular games we've played on the show. And now it's Battlefield Vietnam. Matt Kyle is here from X-Play to give us a little tour. We're going to be playing it this Thursday on our Screensavers LAN party. Matt, I don't know if your microphone's working. Let's see. Is it? Say hello.
Hello.
Is it working? Oh, good. I can hear you. All right. Now, so let's talk a little bit about Battlefield Vietnam. Is it basically this? They just put new weapons in, or is it a little bit different from Battlefield 1942?
It's a little bit different. It uses the same engine as Battlefield 1942, but they heavily modified it, and it's all new Vietnam-era weaponry and vehicles. And it's been modified so it can display much more detailed terrain.
Oh, interesting.
So it's, because it's jungle warfare, so they need more trees and flowers and bushes and, the rivers and the muddy rivers.
How about the gameplay? Has that changed?
The controls are the same, but you're going to have to play the game very differently.
Strategy's different.
Yes, very
How
much
so?
Well, essentially, because it's jungle warfare, they've kind of eliminated the ability to look and just kind of see the names of the players far off. So instead of just being able to, scan the horizon and see people, they're going to be hiding in the bush. You're going to be sometimes running across guys who are hiding in the grass, and you don't see them until they're 10 feet away. It's a very different game in that you have to plan ahead, work together, and it's even more vital than it was in 1942.
Of course, the weapons you mentioned are different. You have Vietnam-era weapons. What is that? What kind of weapons is that?
Well, you've got M16s, M60, the big chain-loading machine guns like Rambo style, law rockets, shoulder-mounted, RPGs.
Now that's for the U.S. forces.
Mostly.
Yeah.
You've got some pretty heavy weaponry for the Viet Cong side too, but the U.S. has the really powerful weaponry. In fact, some of it's a little overpowered in some ways.
Does that unbalance the game a little bit?
Slightly. I mean, the U.S. has the heavy firepower. The Vietnamese side has stealth and mobility and more of a hit-and-run guerrilla warfare tactic.
So if you're going to play the Viet Cong, you're going to have to play strategically a little bit different. You're going to sneak around and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very different to play one side or the other.
Well, that might be interesting. That might add something to it. Can we get in one of the vehicles? I understand that when you get in a tank, for instance, you have music from 1960s.
Yeah. Yes. Any vehicle you can have your music going. You can start up.
Like what? Like the Stones' Satisfaction?
Wait
a minute, I hear it. Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the really extra cool part is they set up the engine so that anyone who's playing, if you pass by them, they can hear your music blasting out of your vehicle.
This is straight out of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, and you can. There is Ride of the Valkyries. Is there? So the Apocalypse Now junkies can get their fix.
Wow.
And
is this a Huey? What are we flying here?
Yeah, this is a Huey gunship.
So they have Vietnam-era vehicles as well.
Yeah, you got that. You got the jets. You've got F4s, it's calling napalm strikes. You have cargo copters that can
must be
tanks.
very different, though, to fly these kind of vehicles than it is to fly the 1942 stuff.
It is. In fact, they've dumbed down or simplified the controls for the air vehicles a little bit because the planes in 1942 were tough. You had to be really skilled to fly those well. And they've kind of simplified it so anyone can kind of jump in a plane and fly it effectively. And, some purists have a problem with that. Some people like that they can get into it faster and blow some stuff up from the air. But
now, for somebody like me who grew up in the Vietnam era, it's a little uncomfortable I have to say, to kind of see this, because it's a little kind of close to home in a way.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're playing 1942. War is war, right? I mean,
yeah, but I mean, one war is, maybe not more objectionable than the other, you could say, but it's a more recent thing, and there's some politically charged content in here.
Is there napalm?
There is napalm. There is napalm. There's no Agent Orange. There's always the expansion to that.
Something down the future.
Yeah.
Down the road. Overall, what do you think? A good game?
Good game. If you like 1942, this is it's a different thing, and you're probably going to enjoy it because it's the same idea.
Right.
Right. And
but
far more
updated
powerful
for the 60s. Wow, look at that. Very interesting. All new episode of X-Play tonight, by the way. It's the Ninja Show.
Yep.
So what does that mean? Are Adam and Morgan dressing up in black?
No, we actually have a ninja that visited the show.
An actual professional ninja?
Professional ninja. Real life
Not
ninja.
you?
No, it's not me.
Okay. Make sure you watch. That's 11 o'clock Eastern for, of course, X-Play tonight on Tech TV. And don't forget to register for our LAN party this week, powered by NVIDIA. We're going to be playing Battlefield Vietnam. Go to techtv.com/LAN party to register. And you do have to own Battlefield Vietnam to play. That means really it's going to be early adopters since it just came out. You'd have to be somebody who bought it right away. Look, it's a really interesting looking game. Very, very interesting. Coming up after the break, we're going to tell Mark how to get one mouse and one keyboard and one monitor to work with 2 computers. That's all coming up after these things. Oh, you got to catch tomorrow's show. We've got a doozy coming up. We'll tell you what the best, least expensive 8X DVD burners are. Yeah, 8X is here, baby, and it's less than you might think. Let's find out what the advantages are of next-generation high-performance PCI Express. It's where the PC is headed. Forget PCI. Plus, Sarah shows you how to use the same mouse and keyboard with multiple operating systems. Some free software to make it easy. That's all coming up on tomorrow's thrilling, gripping edition of the Screensaver.
Now, remember Sarah's segment tomorrow.
Why?
Because Mark's going to ask us about a very similar subject.
Oh.
Where are you calling from, Mark?
Hello, Mark.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Pat. Hi, Leo. How are you doing?
From
I admit I watch the show religiously, so... anyway, the question, yes.
Wait a minute. When you say you watch the show religiously, does it mean you're on your knees right now, or what? What is it? What exactly...
Not at all. No, I just watch, obviously, every day.
Every day. All right, we like that.
Cool.
On to the question.
How can we reward you for your...
Deep breaths, Mark.
I'm sorry, I've just never been on TV before.
So excited. Some days...
The question. So, I'm calling for a friend of mine, actually. He wants to connect 2 computers. They're really old. They actually precede the old Pentium 2. They're both running on 100 megahertz processors.
Oh, Pentiums.
And he wants to use both of the computers simultaneously, but with one keyboard, one mouse, and one monitor. But he doesn't necessarily want to, upgrade his computers because that'd be too expensive.
We can help him do that. And especially if they're PS2. Now, actually, it doesn't even matter. Even if you have a COM port mouse, you could use a KVM, right?
For the most part. Depends on the KVM.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what a KVM switch is?
I've read about it in PC World, but never actually.
Keyboard, video, mouse. Actually, let's just turn the whole.
Can we get our? It's kind of messy back here. Somebody left some peeps.
Oh, dude, I used to watch this show all the time when I was a kid. I love this show.
This is how, 1, 2, 3.
It's fun to see how far technologies actually came.
Computers, but of course we have a lot of computers underneath. So what we'll do is we'll switch. Now, if you look at the back, you can see how it's working. Turn some more. Each one of those switches has a corresponding keyboard and mouse connector, and video connector. Now, these are PS2 type. So if he has a really old PC, which
YouTube, just search Screensavers full episodes. Somehow I found a channel last night. Well, it wasn't a channel, but it just started playing them over and over. It played like... I played it when I went to sleep like a couple of nights ago, and it still hasn't stopped showing episodes. Like, that's how many episodes are on YouTube. Like, it was playing when I came home today, too.
Am I correct on the Synergy? No?
And I don't know how to get back to the playlist, because it's not a playlist. It just keeps playing next and next, and I've never got it to do that before, so... I just leave my TV on all the time now, pretty much.
Solution to do what he wants to do, because the only way you could connect both of those to a single monitor and single mouse and single keyboard.
I'm just going to do what Sarah did.
Now, wait a minute. Now I'm confused. So basically, this one keyboard and mouse can connect to a bunch of different computers. No, we're not using it that way.
No.
We're using it the other way.
We're actually using it to switch. We've used it to switch between. You know what, Mark? You don't care anything about the way we use it because we use it
it's
in a really weird way.
But the notion would be one monitor, one keyboard, one mouse, a bunch of computers under here. I press the button, and that's the mouse, that's the computer. And it's the same thing on Call for Help. One keyboard, and that's a KVM, keyboard, video,
keyboard
monitor.
to rule them all in the workstation, find them. Right.
Yes.
So are there any like manufacturers that you found that you?
But you should check out this free server. It's EverQuest. Oh God, I'm about to fucking die.
These are Belkins. IO Gear is another one that makes a lot of them.
But it's a free server on EQemulator.org if you check it out. And it's like a custom legit. It's not overpowered or anything. Still got a level like normal, but I got power leveled by a guy that said we need more people in the community. Like we need more clerics for a guild. They were needing a beast lord, so they power leveled me.
And there is a website.
Oh, dude. See, I played 99, but I don't understand like playing the same game over and over again. I played on what was it?
Download of the day tomorrow.
I played on blue when it first came out. And I tried green a little bit, but I don't really want to play the same game over again. And this server is kind of like classic EverQuest, except different zones, different encounters. It's got a thing called treasure maps on here where you go to a certain zone, you start digging with a shovel, and you fight waves of mobs until a chest pops. There's a big war going on where you got to defend against like certain places. There's a lot of flagging quests that are actually pretty interesting. Different spells. Oh, and I just got another part of my main quest. Pieces.
It's called greenbutton.com. They've got forums. You can read
like everything's like very intricate on this server, like especially the quest and the leveling part. It's kind of like Project 1999, like I said, except a whole lot different. No, you still got the same classes, but they're utilized differently. Like, I mean, they got the same, you use them the same way, like, but you get, like, there's different mechanics in raids, like, there's different strats, and, like, the strats in these raids are a whole lot better than P99 and a whole lot better than live. Like, these people actually, they actually did alter the client a little bit, which I don't know if they're supposed to do that or they got permission, but they've actually,
They're not really food, they're not really candy.
I don't know how to explain it, but like the client is altered, and they've done a bunch of like back-end server stuff with the netcode, like adding the treasure map thing, adding like events for like Christmas and stuff like that, and it's not like really overpowered gear on the server. Like the gear is like scaled to your level, so it's not one of those like, you know, everybody wins servers. We're actually looking for a cleric right now. I mean, they might power level somebody for that, but like I'm in the 3rd top raiding guild on the server, and if they did, dude, like you get a shit ton of loot because we're all geared up. Like I started about 3 or 4 months ago. They power leveled me in like a month to like level 65. I've now got 250 AA, and they've been gearing me out, and I've got quite a bit of like tier 13 loot or tier 12 loot. In my beast lord, in my druid, which is my alt character, we go to prison, which is a lower tiered zone, like a 9 or 10, and they get me like gear for her too. So we gear out our alts.
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
It's tuned for group content. You can only 2-box on this server. You can't do no more than 2-box. So you can duo till 65 too. You can pretty much duo all the way up to 65. I made a Beast Lord and Druid, but Beast Lords are kind of overrun on this server right now as it stands. But another good combo is Shaman Monk. Let's see. Some cleric warrior. I'll ask my guild, but like there's a couple other like really good duos, and these construction things are dropping quite a bit. Like I've been here for like 2 days and I haven't seen none of them. Now they're dropping like crazy. I might be able to finish this quest up before long.
Use the promo code TWIT. The new Screensavers is brought to you by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcasts.com/NS.
And that sucks. I don't think I looted the last one.
And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching
I think I was too busy talking.
check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay, period. To learn more and first $50,000 in transactions,
this main quest I've been working on for about 3 months now. Well, ever since I started the game. You can only do it when you get to level 65. But I get like my Crown of Innovation Nog. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up here for you if it's clear enough. And like this is a pretty long quest. This is just for the I can't remember what it's called, your faction Nog. But you also got the Gemstone of the High Seeker that you get for doing the main quest. I don't have the Gemstone of the High Seeker on me, but here's my Council Og. You can go with one of 3 like faction Ogs. And this is the next to the last one. When I get the last one, I can turn in my Captain's Log that I got from Hates of Fury. And I can get relic spells, but like it takes a long time to farm the items for relic spells. And I can also start on my refuge spells. I'll show you. Hold on. Oh, I was going to link it. Yeah, well, anyways, there's the stats on, like, this Og that took me forever to get. And, it's just the next to the last one, but the last one only gives you, like, a 20 more HP or so. And the gear, like, this is tier 12 gear, but you see it's not, like, overpowered. It's, like, classic EverQuest, like, Planes of Power era, I guess, gear. Like, see, 155 HP, 48 AC. It's nothing like, you know, the mother servers that they got, where you go solo and you get, like, gear that has 1,000 hit points on it, or, like, 1,500 hit points, 1,500 mana. Can't stand those servers. You can also guest lock your account, so you can give anybody your password to your account, and when they log in, it'll say guest lock. They can't delete anything. They can't do nothing to your character. They can only play them. As far as like cast spells, they can get you killed or mess up your faction with something, but they can't steal anything. So even if my friends like use my account, like people that I've met online, obviously around here in the South, like I don't have too many people that play this game. But I mean, my friends that I let play online, I still guest lock my account because I'm kind of paranoid somebody might take it or fuck some shit up.
Spit it back out and everybody's going to be dead.
And it's not just likely, it's really likely.
Yeah. We've got a seismologist to join us to explain what the Cascadian subduction zone is and why we should all be very worried about that. Well, we don't know.
I think there's a named up here that I'm about to kill.
1 in 5 in the next 50 years.
We'll get the geologist to explain it. But
I'm using a tier 13, borderline tier 13 warrior right now with Spirit Harvest. And he can take light blues pretty decently. There's a name up here. I bet you this item it drops gives you about 500 plat.
Any minute now. Maybe while the show's going on.
I've been saving to get my Supreme Charm of Divinity,
what it's all about. And then
which is 1.2 million. Or I can get the step down for 100,000 or 500,000 or something like that. But there's an economy on this game too. People do sell and like buy stuff.
You're taking classes there. Jim is a very accomplished photographer. Probably does not need to take classes.
I wanted to get better at portraits.
I also play Elder Scrolls Online, like just for the storyline. I mean, I don't read too much. Not that I can't read. It's just like it's more interesting and everything. And like, I don't run through and like power through like the dialogue or whatever. I just like the storyline, so I just sit there and relax and, you know, drink me a drink and listen to the story.
Sarah Pearson is here.
Because I really don't have time to play other games like that. That's why it's more casual for me.
The Creative Commons license is a good idea. We got tech questions coming up, but let's start.
What games do you play besides P99?
Wait a minute. What have you?
Brandon.
You know what? I think you have started a candy room for yourself.
I like to be organized, Leo.
Just like Notch from Minecraft, who bought an $80 million
see what this. Oh man.
So you're gonna have the jelly babies there.
Dude, it pushed me in.
$8 mansion.
So Windows 10 Wednesday. Now you've been using it since the
I used the
beginning.
rewind command. I'm pretty sure y'all got that on P99
Writing a
too.
book on it would be my guess.
I am.
I kind of got stuck in the wall when it pushed me
You
back.
also, of course, as host of
Not too many mobs that do
We
that.
talk about it all the time. We
Yep,
talk
that's
about
what I
it
was
all the
looking
time.
for.
But here
Frozen
it is.
chainmail
It's finally
gloves.
happening
That's going to
Wednesday,
be like
July
400 or
29th.
500 plat there.
You gave us
Those are
your
worth 5
top
plat
10
apiece.
things you need to know about Windows 10 right now. Let's walk through it.
Yeah, I mean, so number one is that it's free, and there's an asterisk on that, although I want to say it's not free, air quotes free, it's really free. You have to be running Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 to upgrade to Windows 10 for free, but once you do, it's free, it's really free, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see hundreds of millions of people upgrading over the next year or so.
There might be some caveats. For instance, upgrades will be forced after you install this, right?
Software updates will be,
Yeah. And it is Windows 7 and 8.1. What about Windows Vista users or XP users? Is there any window for them to get this? Or
There are no Windows Vista users, Leo.
Okay.
We don't. That never
solves
happens.
that problem.
No, I mean those folks are going to have to pay for it at retail or electronically, and they would pay full price.
This is what the big change is. I mean, in the past, nobody bought Windows to upgrade it. You just bought a new computer. But I think Microsoft recognized that if we're going to get Windows 10 jump started, we got to get everybody possible on it.
Yeah, and that's what the the automatic updates are about, or the forced updates.
This could get a little
It's just about keeping
sketchy.
People up to date. I mean, even on the Pro version, to get support from Microsoft, the PC has to be up to date. So even though you could defer updates, even on Pro, you really do have to keep it up to date.
And this is so that developers have a stable platform to write software for and all of that.
It's also like the motorcycle helmet rule, right? Trying to protect people from themselves a little bit.
Are you saying using Windows 8 could cause brain damage?
No.
Because it could. I mean, I just want to say.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
But
No,
you know what?
brain damage was absolutely involved in Windows 8.
Microsoft has been very unclear on what this is all about. So this is where Paul and Mary Jo are kind of constantly parsing what Microsoft says to better understand it. So free means really free. It's not going to be free, and in a year we start paying. It's free.
That's how they get you moment. It's free.
That's good to know. Number 2.
So this is not the first time this has happened, but Windows 7, when it came out, had lower hardware requirements than Windows Vista. Windows 8 had the same hardware requirements, 8.1 had the same, and now Windows 10 does as well. Wow. There are special Windows 10 features that require special hardware. If you're going to use Continuum, for example, which is automatic tablet mode, you need a special kind of 2-in-1 device that supports that chip. Cortana needs special audio, or needs audio at all. And that kind of thing. Windows Hello.
The new login thing, Windows Hello, needs a special camera stuff.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
But as far as the base hardware requirements,
hello,
they're
testing.
The same as they've been now for many years.
That makes sense. It's good news too, because you're not going to have a compatibility issue. If you're running 7 or 8, chances are pretty good, unless you have some sort of weird hardware.
And they're trying to fix that stuff anyway. All the problems that were with 7 and 8, with the incompatibility and the I'm not exactly sure what.
Testing 1 2 3.
It makes
Testing,
sense
1
to
2 3.
do 10 this way. Make it nice and simple.
Good. Number 3, upgrade.
Testing 1 2 3.
So upgrades used to be really hard to do, and they used to be really unreliable. And if something went wrong, it was really hard to kind of go back to what
Hello, hello.
Hello. That's what you mean.
I mean literally.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Hey,
can you guys hear me?
One of the things they've really done well with this upgrade, with this version, is to make that upgrade workable. And not just
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Actually work really
can you guys
well.
hear me?
And you can tell that Microsoft
What's up?
feels good about it because they're the ones supporting the upgrade, right? This isn't going through PC.
Testing, hello.
It's going through Microsoft.
This is more
Testing,
like
hello.
the smartphone model, where the updates get pushed out to you right from the manufacturer.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Actually, that's
Hello,
not
can you
really
guys hear
apt,
me?
because many smartphones you have to get it through the carrier.
This is how we wish.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hello,
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, from the software maker.
All right.
Why does it sound like I'm in a...
Number 4.
Why does it sound like I'm in a...
Yeah, so these are security features. This kind of stuff is usually not very sexy, but every version of Windows obviously has improved security. This version, though, some of the security features they're adding are actually really neat. I think the big one is Windows Hello.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hardware could be a
Hello,
fingerprint
can you
reader,
guys hear me?
an IR camera that can do a
Testing
facial
1 2 3.
or an iris scanner.
Testing 1 2
You can
3.
log into your computer in some cases.
Testing
by
1 2 3.
which is literally
Testing
instantaneous
1 2
if you have a
3.
camera, or by just swiping your finger. and it augments that.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5. Pin sign-in that we started having with Windows 8. And it works with that stuff just to make that sign-in process easier. But it's not just sign-in; it's also doing things like buying apps or going forward.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
Passwords that you can associate with your Microsoft account. So it's kind of
Testing
nice
1 2 3 4 5. Testing 1 2
when
3
you
4
buy stuff
5.
to prove that it's you, very much like the Apple.
Yeah, I love the fingerprint reader on iPhone and iPad because it's very simple. I don't have to enter a password.
We know how security is, right? You know, passwords are awful.
Yeah.
Pins are better, but if you've ever used an iPhone, you know that Touch ID thing that they have is wonderful. Fingerprints are great, but what's better than just sitting down in front of your computer? It's mission impossible. It looks at you, says you're you, and you're in.
By the way, I noticed when I started using the Windows 10 beta that unlike Windows 8, it asks me for a PIN right at the beginning. I like to use a PIN to log in. I don't want it because I want to have a long, difficult to type password for my Microsoft account. So right at the beginning now they ask for a PIN, and so you don't have to go through.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5. Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to remember.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5. Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
Did every version? I think this is the case. Did every version of Windows prior to Windows 8 have a start menu? Seems like they did, right?
Well, the start menu debuted with Windows 95. Windows
3 did not have a start menu. All right. Right. So from 95 on, but in 8 they took out the start menu to the horror.
Drove me crazy.
Well, if you're used to clicking there,
that's right.
I don't mind that they went full screen for touch and all that stuff. I kind of get it.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5. The old way of doing things, which is
Testing 1 2 3 4 5.
So even in Windows 95, if you didn't like the start menu, you could go back to Program.
Trying to fix my microphone.
If you didn't like the new start menu ahead of the time, you could go back to the Windows 2000 version. So there's a real hard stop there, and that was kind of tough.
Sounds like it's really low.
Sounds
like it's really low.
It's a hybrid start menu. I can show you here on this machine. It's both kind of a
how does this sound?
Menu on the left, and on the
how
right,
does this
you
sound?
get the tiles sort of reduced. So
does it sound better?
What happens, and I don't know if
does it sound better?
As you add stuff, does that tile thing keep going off to the right-hand side, or?
No, it's actually going to go down. The tiles will go down. I mean, you could add to the right, and that will expand.
I'm just going to leave it like this, fuck it. I'm just going to leave it like this, fuck it.
The tiles is bigger than what you can see. You can scroll through.
And as power users have said again and again, and I presume this is still true, the easiest way to do this is to hit Windows key and start typing, and you'll find the thing that you're looking for.
It just sounds really low to me.
It just sounds really low to me. Started, I want to say probably Windows Vista, but Start Search has always worked the same since they've implemented it. Even in Windows 8, you can just hit the start button and start typing.
And of course, you can ask Cortana.
Right.
She'll go, huh? What else in desktop management? Item 6.
So, when Microsoft kind of got lost in the weeds with Windows 8 and Touch First and mobile devices and 2-in-1s and all that kind of stuff, I think a lot of people that were not stuck, but were on Windows 7, literally hundreds of millions of them, felt a little out of touch with what was going on because they use a traditional computer with a keyboard and a mouse and a desktop environment and floating windows and all that kind of stuff. And what about us? And so I think one of the things that's cool about Windows 10 is they're starting to add more features for those people. So Task View is kind of a neat alternative to Alt-Tab. There's some tiny percentage of people that actually even use that keyboard combination. So now they've put a button right on the taskbar that helps you manage the windows and applications you're running. There are features like Snap Assist. So they added, actually Snap debuted back in Windows 7, and there was a Windows 8 version of Snap. But with Snap Assist, when you snap something to a side of the screen, it shows you your other windows, so you can, if you want to, choose another window to snap alongside it, which is a neat thing because in Windows 8 people would get lost. They would snap something and then say, well, how do I get something over here now? There's this big empty space. And they finally added formal support for virtual desktops, which is technology that's actually been in Windows for a long time, but there's just never really been a UI right in Windows. And so now it's possible.
I love virtual desktops. That's a great way to organize your work. You can have a desktop with different apps open and jump back and forth. And of course, here's the great news: the Charms bar is no.
What's up, whoever's watching?
I should have added that one. There is no charm.
There is no charm, but there is now this new notification system which you could program.
Can you guys hear me?
It's great. I really enjoy it.
Can you guys hear me?
And that's
and a lot of the stuff that was in Charms is available right there. And the way you bring that thing up is very similar.
It's discoverable though. I can actually click an icon, which makes it a little bit easier to find. How about Edge? You've gotten rid of Internet Explorer, but isn't Edge just a renamed Internet Explorer? How is it different?
No, not exactly. I mean, the application itself is much simpler than Internet Explorer. The browser engine and the rendering engine and all that stuff is based on what they did with IE. Obviously, they didn't start over from scratch, but has been, all the legacy code has been removed. It's now only, modern web standards and all that kind of stuff. And so what we see is a browser that has proven to be faster than Chrome or Firefox or whatever other browser and benchmarks, but more to the point for users, I think. Kind of a nice browsing experience. Kind of works the way you expect it to. It's very safe. It works with all the security technologies that Microsoft built into Windows 10. It's got some really neat and kind of unique features. If you have a pen-based system like a Surface, you can scribble notes on top of web pages and share that with others, or just save it for yourself.
Can I do that with touch as well, or do I have to have a pen?
Yeah, I bet you can. I haven't tried that.
Figure it out.
In fact, I bet you probably do that.
Yeah,
I bet you probably
I notice our page does not render properly in it, so we'll have to work on that.
But that leads me to the final point about the browser is, Edge is one of those things that is coming in kind of hot. If you are used to Internet Explorer or Chrome and expecting certain features, every once in a while you run into something that's not there. And so over the rest of this year, and I think beyond that as well, they're going to be improving Edge quite a bit. And one of the things they're going to be adding, I think in October, is support for add-ins. And in fact, it will support Chrome add-ins. And so if you have a Chrome plugin or add-in, whatever they call it in Chrome that you like, you can add it to Edge.
Now, I don't know if this is a beta thing or not, but I still have Internet Explorer on my computer.
Yes, and you will.
That's confusing.
They hide it, right? So it's not pinned to your taskbar. I don't believe it actually even appears in the all apps list.
No, I had to type Internet Explorer.
You had to type, yeah. So if you know to look for it, you can find it. But they do what they can to hide it. It's really just there for legacy purposes, mostly for businesses that need it for compatibility.
A lot of businesses have used Internet Explorer. In fact, look what happens. The start page on Internet Explorer reminds you should be using Edge. What are you nuts?
This thing we made is terrible. Please do not use it.
Please stop using Internet Explorer. But no, they have to put that in. That's one of the things Microsoft's always done, and I think does well, which is preserve compatibility for previous versions and legacy.
It freaks users out if you don't do that.
Yeah.
Edge is going to freak a lot of people out, and there's no reason to be freaked out.
Do you feel like, Paul, that they have, in fact, kept compatibility in Windows 10 for older software and hardware?
Oh, they absolutely have. Yeah. Yep.
What's continuum? You mentioned that. This is like tablet plus, I don't understand.
Yeah, so Windows 10, obviously there's a normal desktop mode, it's just normal, and then it supports a tablet mode. So if you have a mini tablet and it comes with Windows 10, it will run in tablet mode. And in tablet mode, everything is full screen. It works like Windows 8 did with modern apps and so forth. You can manually switch between normal and tablet modes if you want through the Action Center, through a quick action tile. But if you have a 2-in-1 that supports a special kind of input-output chip, which is most of them, by the way, it will support automatic tablet mode, and that's what Continuum is essentially. It's the ability to, say with a Surface, you have a Surface tablet, you unplug the keyboard, you unclick it, it goes into tablet mode automatically. That's Continuum. And when you plug the keyboard back in, you're back into normal mode. It exits tablet mode for you.
This is kind of, Microsoft wanted to do this hybrid tablet desktop in Windows 8, but this makes it a little bit more rational, where you actually say, oh no, I want to be in tablet mode. I want to be in desktop mode.
Exactly. If you have a Surface tablet in particular, any 2-in-1, and you unclip the keyboard, you are, for all intents and purposes, almost certainly meaning to go do something with touch.
Right.
And in that type of scenario, it makes sense for this thing to go into a mode that works better with touch. And that's what they're doing.
Incidentally, you're probably noting, and I know people in the chat room are, that I'm using a pretty old build of the Windows 10 preview. I'm using 130. The current build, if you are in the Windows Insider program, is 240, and that is in fact the final, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So is there a big difference between 130 and 240, or 166 and 240?
Oof. No, not really. I mean, honestly, I think the biggest changes you're going to see are in the apps, and you can get those apps, I'm sure, on the older builds too. So the apps are updated all the time. The core functionality, I think, was locked down a month or two ago.
Here's the thing that Microsoft, in fact, Satya Nadella even used the phrase "one Windows," which scared the hell out of everybody. But this is one of the things that is untested but could be huge for Windows 10, the idea that one app can run on everything: Xbox, Windows Phone, and desktop and tablet. They call those universal apps.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the cool things about Windows 10. The funny thing is they really did the legwork for this in Windows 8. It's just that those apps were, first of all, Windows 8 only. They only ran full screen, and so they were kind of not very interesting to a lot of people that used Windows, as most people do, with a keyboard and a mouse and so forth. And so in Windows 10, they've expanded that platform, to, like you said, to include the console, to include phone, to include Surface Hub, to include HoloLens, and there'll be other devices in the future. So it's possible for developers to write an app that runs across all of those platforms. And they've made them run more consistently with other applications on Windows. And so if you're using Windows 10, those applications that you might have shunned before because they were just full screen now look and work like normal applications. So I think this is actually it's more than what they needed to do, but they've certainly done enough, I think, to put this platform over the top finally.
When do we get Windows Phone 10 or Xbox One 10? When is that going to happen?
Yeah, both of those are going to happen in the fall. And so probably September, October, final, and then in market, probably October, November.
So my understanding is that by doing this, I could write a Twit app that would run on, in fact, I think Dmitry Lealin, who wrote the Twit app for Windows Phone, is doing this, that would run on desktop, tablet, phone, and Xbox One. Is that the case?
Yeah, and one of the neat things about universal apps is that you can design them, and in fact, they're inherently meant to be this way, so that they scale according to not just the screen size, but the orientation, the pixel density, and then the input types that you see: touch, keyboard, mouse, Connect, Cortana, whatever you may have. So, lots of neat capabilities there.
This is, obviously, this is Microsoft's way of getting developers to write software for their less desirable platforms, particularly Windows Phone.
Microsoft doesn't have less desirable
what am I
platforms,
thinking?
Leo. I don't know what that means.
But no, I think it's great. I'm very excited about it. Finally, we showed the slide. DirectX 12 is coming. Xbox One's game streaming to Windows desktop is coming. This is really going to be a universe.
And I think this one Windows idea is sort of what makes some of this happen.
Right.
As the core of Xbox One turns into the same core as we see in Windows 10, these kind of integration features become possible. The other night, I was sitting out on the couch watching TV with a Surface Pro 3, and I attached an Xbox One controller, and I played Call of Duty Ghosts off of my Xbox One that's in my office. And the funny thing about it is, I sit here, you can't see it because it's next to me, but, I've got a big screen on my computer, but next to me is my Xbox One. And I have Bose speakers, and it's kind of what I think is a nice setup. But then playing it on my Surface Pro 3, the sound was actually quite a bit better, I noticed. I was really kind of
what about latency?
Surprised and disappointed at the same time.
What about lag? I mean, you're playing the game over the network. Is that an issue?
Yeah, so it's a little laggy over Wi-Fi, which is how I did it that time. It actually gets better as you go. It's a little bit like video streaming, where it kind of picks up steam almost. If you can do it with a wire, it's actually quite a bit better. And not that it makes sense for me to do this, but I did test it here on my desktop, and actually that experience was quite good.
So you're recommending people upgrade right away?
Yeah, I mean, I only gave you 10 items. I mean, the truth is there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't talk about: Cortana, Action Center, notifications, and all that. I mean, there's a lot going on. I guess the question isn't so much should you upgrade, because I think most users, not all users, should, but it's more a matter of timing. When should people upgrade? There are hundreds and hundreds of millions of people that could potentially upgrade for free during this first year. I'd let some of those guys go first, just to see how it goes. I mentioned up front, it's a much more reliable and easier upgrade, but it's still potential for silliness and compatibility issues and all that. And Microsoft, to their credit, is doing a pretty good job of slipstreaming this thing out over time. So July 29th, some people will get it. July 30th, more people, and they'll add people as time goes on. So I think for the techie type people, they're going to want to upgrade right away. They're probably on the insider program. For the general audience, I would give it at least a month, just to see how things shake out.
So even if you accepted the invitation, you'll get the bits, but you don't have to do it right away.
You don't have to do it right away. You don't have to do it, period.
There's also a rollback, I noticed. So you can go back to Windows 8.1. And that's
for 30 days. For 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah, because that takes, well, think about it. It takes up disk space, right?
Yeah, they're storing it.
And depending on the type of system you have, that could be particularly onerous. So they give you some time. You can try it, make sure it works, make sure everything's the way you want it, and you'll eventually get a little prompt. Hey, this is going to happen. You sure you're where you want to be, and it's all good.
Tune in Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. 1800 UTC. It's Windows Weekly. We're going to have our big Windows 10 install party. And during the show, we're upgrading every computer in the studio to Windows 10. It's going to be amazing.
What could go wrong? I think we could call the episode "What Could Go Wrong."
There's actually a huge amount of unknown stuff that will become known, I think, on Wednesday and the days following. We'll talk about that on Windows Weekly on Wednesday. Thank you, Paul, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It's good to see you.
Paul Thurrott, Windows Weekly. Thurrott.com is the place to go. THURROTT.com. He will have this all written up, everything you need to know. In fact, this mostly is on the site already.
So many businesses take their time in upgrading this stuff. When do you think most businesses will go to 10?
Well, and that's one of the reasons Microsoft is pushing Windows 10 is because businesses did not go to Windows 7. They stayed with Windows 7.
I did.
Yeah, I don't blame them. So I'm surprised. I thought you...
I'm 100% Mac, but there are, even if you're 100% Mac, there are a couple of things that you need to do. I do a lot of astronomy imaging and stuff like that.
And that's
all the software. Exactly. You can get, I know the chat room will say, yes, there's this, and this that you can use on Mac, but most of it is on PC. See, I got to keep 7.
Yeah, and for gaming, PCs are still the king of the hill. I mean, they're really the way you want to go. Yeah. I think businesses will defer it as they have with 8, not merely because of questions of quality or compatibility, but mostly because of training. You got to teach, and this is so different from Windows 7. You got to teach your staff how to use it. That's not inexpensive.
The big motivation is they don't want to get fired. The person who's in charge of,
that's right.
Okay, the person who's in charge of moving the company to a new version of Windows.
Always going to be conservative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't want to be the guy who stepped up and said, no, we got to go to 10. However, I do think this is an important upgrade. I think Microsoft is hugely committed behind them and giving it away. These are the crown jewels. To give away the crown jewels.
They have to.
That means Microsoft saying, we're all in. We want everybody to go to Windows 10. And I think ultimately there'll be a real advantage for businesses to do that. So businesses, I think, are thinking about it much more so than they were about Windows 8.
If they give us a stable platform and it makes sense, then that's great.
Should point out, businesses, it's not free for you.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess it would be if they just had bought onesie-twosie Windows 8 licenses or Windows 7 licenses.
Which
if you have an enterprise agreement, you're going to still be paying for the Windows 10 upgrade. Lots of fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Paul Thurrott. And I'm surprised to hear you use Windows. I didn't know you were an astronomer, for instance. That's interesting.
Big time. I'm total geek. You see this? Yeah. I have one of those.
Are you a ham as well? Is there any hobby?
You want to see my geek card?
You're copying me.
Yeah, I know. You are too. Yeah.
I'm copying you, except I don't have the telescope yet. Where would I go get one of those?
California has some great telescope companies. We'll talk.
We should. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, to take a call. Time to help me. Our help me caller is on the line. George. Hey, George.
Hey, Leo.
Where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from West Virginia today.
All right. Are you? I'm looking at the cabinet behind you. Whoa!
Sorry.
So's the camera apparently. Are you a ham? What do you do? What kind of stuff are you into there?
Modding, hacking, taking stuff apart, reprogramming it. Cool. You know, fun stuff. Like my favorite latest stuff is software-defined radio. I mean, I love it.
Yes, sir.
$20.
You like a guy like you.
You are a ham then. Do you have a ham license?
Not yet. I'm wanting to get one though.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot
funny.
of stuff online. And,
even modern radios. This is an incredible ICOM, like a very fancy ICOM radio. I think it's the 7000. That's basically a software-defined radio, even though it looks like hardware and there's a lot of knobs and buttons.
Yeah.
When they came to upgrade it, they put software modules in.
Yeah.
Even today, even the hardware radios are software.
The FCC, a long time ago, and you probably know this, about 10 years ago, they said, ham community, go to software-defined radios. And that's where all the manufacturers are headed.
Makes sense. Why not? So what can we do for you today, George?
Well, about a month or two ago, I decided to become a beta tester for Windows 10. And instead of upgrading, like Windows 7 to Windows 10, I wanted to install it on a fresh hard drive and start from there. So once I did that, I wanted to have access to all my old data and, you know, files like that. And when I went to plug in my hard drive, there was a dual boot issue. Like, if I had my BIOS in the old BIOS, I could boot from Windows 7, but if I put it in the UEFI, then I could boot from Windows 10.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I decided to take a Windows DVD to USB and put my ISO on a thumb drive and try to install it that way, but it wanted me to delete all the partitions before I could even try to reinstall. So now I just kind of hot swap back and forth. So I was wondering, is there a better way to do that?
It's
or is
funny.
there any new
I'm
programs
surprised you're having these issues. I asked Paul before the show because he couldn't stick around. I said, can you stick around and help George? He said, I got to go. And I explained what you were doing, probably not completely. He said, you know, it's pretty much like dual booting any version of Windows. It is true that modern machines are using not BIOS anymore. They're using the more secure, more compatible, or more capable UEFI boot. And that the master boot record, remember how we used to do Windows? It was a master boot record. Now they use something, hey, who's that?
That's my son in the background.
Now they use the GUID, G-U-I-D partition table, or GPT. And the reason is, you know, master boot record, which isn't very big, used to hold pointers for all the sectors on the drive. Well, as drives got bigger and bigger, you just couldn't do that. Yeah. So GPT is a much more flexible system and allows virtual disks, all sorts of things. But if you look, it seems like the dual boot situation is very similar to how it used to be. You have Windows 7, you install Windows 8. When you get to the installer point where it says, do you want to upgrade 7? You say, no, I want to install a new copy of Windows 8. And it should all work. So did you not do it that way?
No, I installed 10 separately and then just added an old hard drive.
Yeah, you should do it. You should do it like we used to do it. Yeah, just like we used to. You don't actually need to do anything. This is what happens when you overthink it. Oh, no, it's now UEFI, it's now GPT, it's got to be all different. Turns out Microsoft kind of handles it all under the hood, and it should be able to dual boot no problem. And I think that's probably, for a lot of people, the right way to go. I've been running Windows 10 and VM. Because I was, you know,
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, that's another way, and of course you can do that for free. You know, VMware has a free player. There's a what is it called? OneBox. That's the virtual machine from Oracle. And then you could go out and buy a professional VM.
Is there anything you recommend for editing the GPT partitions themselves? Because I know you can't use fdisk anymore or anything like that. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's a good question. I do not know.
No. So I just want to make sure.
That makes me very nervous. At this point, I would use the Microsoft tools only. You know, I'd use the disk management system, and I wouldn't go much farther than that. Let's wait till Windows 10 has been out for a few months, and I'm sure there will be tools to do all of that stuff.
Can you still do a dual boot on your existing system? Can you put 10 on there?
Yeah.
VirtualBox, not OneBox. I always try OneBox. I don't know why. VirtualBox. Hey, it's great to talk to you, George. It looks like you're building a mini Twitch studio behind you there. I like that. It looks good.
It's my hackerspace.
Yeah, I love it.
You have a place to put your stuff.
And where'd that owl come from? I love your owl.
It's probably like 30 years old. It just reminds me to have a thirst for knowledge, you know.
Love it. Love it. George, great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
People who make stuff at home and do that stuff, people who tinker, are the people that come up with amazing things.
Are you a tinkerer? You feel like you might be a tinkerer.
I might be.
Do you have a garage?
I might have.
Woodworking? Do you have all that stuff? Chisels?
No, I don't do woodworking, but I've always done electronics.
Yeah.
And you know, Radio Shack was a big part of those guys. Where do they go now? I guess they go to the web.
Yeah.
Buy stuff on the web.
You know, we have, in fact, I should take you down there. Down here in Marin, there's a place called, I think it's Electronics First. It's better than Radio Shack, really. Store with bin after bin of components and all sorts of stuff.
Didn't Woz say that that's actually what helped him to be able to do everything?
He was at HP, and at HP they had a closet. And any employee could walk into the closet and go, yeah, I think I'll take one of those 8088s. You got a Z80 in there? I'll take one of those. Maybe an 8502, 6502. And he put together the first Apple I from components in that closet. Went back to HP, said, look what I made. Would you like to sell it? They said, no, there's no market for personal computers. But have fun. You guys will have a great time. It's so great to have Jim Cutler here, the voice of Tech TV.
Well, I haven't done anything yet. I've just been standing here looking handsome.
I know. I didn't give you much chance to do anything on that one. We got some more to do.
Oh, we do.
We got a lot more.
We got some good stuff coming up. Wait till you meet Jeremy Coward. And anybody who lives in the Pacific Northwest.
Whoa! I'm scared. Are you scared?
Stick around. I'm scared.
You know, you live in Long Island, right?
Yeah, I do.
The only earthquake into the ocean.
The only earthquake that we felt, there was one in Washington, D.C., and I felt it in my chair. Yeah. All of a sudden, my chair went back and forth up in New York, and that was from down in D.C. But you'll feel this one if, well, stick around.
We're going to talk about the Cascadia subduction zone. Yes. It's not a fault. Oh, no, it's a zone, baby. But first, you were mentioning Audible.com.
I have some picks, if that's okay.
I think you may. You know, on Monday, we're going to interview Ernest Klein on triangulation. He's the guy who wrote, look at this. This is a paper book. Who's reading paper books these days? He wrote Ready Player One. Will Wheaton narrates that on Audible.com, brings that to life. His new book, Armada, is also on Audible.com. I'll be downloading that and listening to it before the interview. Audible is the best audiobook store. In fact, it's one of the, it's the audiobook store. It's like number 2. 185,000 books, bestsellers, fiction, nonfiction, history. Which do you listen to most, Jim? Are you a history buff or are you a fiction buff?
I listen to a lot of history. I listen to, my wife and I both listen to a lot of stories about rock from like the
I do
the Wrecking
too.
Crew. Have you heard the Wrecking Crew?
No, I can't wait.
The Wrecking Crew. Highly
Who's that
recommend.
about?
It turns out that in the 60s and 70s, we all thought that bands played their own music. And everybody knows that the Monkees didn't.
Right.
But it turns out about
a lot of others
20 people did all of the music on all of the hit records.
These are the great studio musicians.
It's like the Byrds. They brought the Byrds in, and they let your friend Roger play, Roger McGuinn.
Yeah.
But the other guys, they made them sit in the corner while they played the instruments, and they were furious. But it turns out that that's how records were made in the 60s and 70s.
So the book is called The Wrecking Crew.
The Wrecking Crew. Highly recommend.
I will read that. I read Keith Richards' book.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
The new album is terrific.
Is it really?
Yes.
I read Graham Nash's book.
Yep.
I read. I love those rock biographies.
Anything about what's the Dawn? What's the Valley? Laurel Canyon.
Oh yeah, that's where Joni Mitchell was. That's where Roger was. The Wrecking Crew. Kent Parker. Now we're going to get this book or one of the titles on Audible.com absolutely free. You'll be signing up for the Gold plan. But you don't pay anything for the first month. That's another Wrecking Crew. That one, there's Armada. See, this is a challenge. You got to pick one book.
Yeah.
Now, your 30 days are free. You cancel any time in that first 30 days. The book is yours to keep. You also get, by the way, we don't talk about this that often, but this is a great feature of the subscription, the daily digest for the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. So you can be, people look at this is all about sitting in the car in traffic. You're listening to a great book. You're listening to news. But I don't commute anymore, and I still find the time to do Audible on the treadmill, on the rowing machine. Yep. This morning we were listening to, I think, a James Patterson novel as we worked out, Lisa and I, in the gym. When I walk the dog, do the dishes, Audible. Audiobooks are a great way to bring books back into your life.
Can I give you a couple more from Audible?
Please.
Nelson DeMille, Radiant Angel.
Don't know that.
Really good. It's a story about what if terrorists brought a nuclear bomb into Manhattan. And
you really want to
see
read
what
that?
happens. This is brand new and it's real good.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking nothing good.
I'll give you a tech book, a good tech book.
Yeah.
Timothy Ferriss, not Tim Ferriss, but Professor Timothy Ferriss.
There's a different one?
Yes, there is. Wrote a great book called Seeing in the Dark. And if you look, you'll see it's very highly rated. It's anybody who's into astronomy in any way. This book is about the love of astronomy. People who, like the fellow from West Virginia who tinkers in his lab, people who bring telescopes out in the backyard and spend the whole night. All of a sudden, they love it so much that the dawn has come up. This book is filled with amazing stories of really cool people. And then
He's
one more.
distinct from Tim Ferriss because there's only one S. That's how you find.
I didn't notice
Seeing in the Dark, how backyard stargazers are probing deep space and guarding Earth from interplanetary peril. Pluto was discovered by an amateur astronomer in the 30s.
It's amazing that Pluto was a minor planet now discovered, but 9 years ago, I had hair. I just pointed that out.
Do you have a little heart carved on your tummy right down there? Have you seen the colorized pictures of Pluto?
I love it. But it's only 600 baht or something coming down.
I know. It's going to
be
take weeks,
18 months until we get all the pictures.
Amazing. One more.
Okay, one more.
Well, you don't have to.
No, I've got two, but I'll give you one more. Dick Cavett, Brief Encounters. Do you remember Dick Cavett?
I remember him. I know him very well.
He's an
I
awesome
love Dick
guy.
Cavett.
Very intelligent guy. Lots of little stories that he tells about behind-the-scenes things that happen in show business. He interviewed the who's who back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Jimi Hendrix,
John Lennon.
World famous. John Lennon. Yeah, I love it. And Dick reads it, I'm sure. Yeah, he's got that great voice. Love Dick Cavett. People probably don't remember much of him, but boy, he's great.
So I got all these from you because I started listening to Audible stuff because of...
Really?
Yeah, because of it.
Well, thank you. Audible.com. Oh, I haven't told you how to get the free book. This is the problem. When Audible listeners get together, it's like this. Well, and then have you heard this? Have you heard this? Audiblepodcast.com, audiblepodcast.com/NSS, new screensavers, to get your first book free. Audible.podcast.com/NSS. Yes, and we thank Audible so much for their support of the new screensavers. I got a little tech short, and then we're going to talk earthquakes. But first, Brian Burnett, with which GoPro should you pick? Brian?
Hey, Brian Burnett, host of Know How, coming to you from the Know Hole, here to give you a few tips on the different models of GoPros and some of the best practices using the mounts. So the GoPro has definitely been popularized by a lot of the most exciting videos to come out in the last few years, but there are different tiers of GoPro. This one I'm looking at here is the Hero 3. The most current one is the Hero 4, but this one still does really well with video. There's the 3 tiers. There's the Black Edition, which this is. That means it comes with a few more bells and whistles. Definitely comes with a higher price. The Silver Edition, which is for just about everyone. Also, most recently, GoPro introduced a brand new camera called the Hero 4 Session, which is half the size of a normal GoPro, and the case itself is actually waterproof. The downsides of this are the battery isn't removable, and it doesn't the only way to change some of the settings is with your cell phone, or if you have the GoPro remote. The Hero 4 Session also doesn't have as good video quality, so I'll probably be waiting until the next version to get this one. For most of my videos, I prefer to do 1080p at 60 frames because that makes things look a little smooth, and if I want to do slow-mo, that gives me the option for that. One of the mounts that I like the most and is pretty versatile is the suction cup mount. As long as you have a clean, relatively flat surface, you can attach this just about anywhere. And from my experience, I use it a lot on my motorcycle. So the gas tank is a perfect place to put it, along with maybe some of the lower fairings. As long as it's a clean surface, the suction cup stays on there really well. It's definitely been bounced around, and it can withstand wind up to pretty high speeds, which I can vouch for. So the suction cup's pretty versatile, and just remember to move it around a bit if you want to get some different shots and kind of mix up your video. The next mount that I really like to use is kind of a combination of some of the joints that they have and the clip mount matched with a sticky bottom. The adhesive that they use is really strong, so whatever you're sticking it to, be sure you want it to be there for a long time. I use this on my helmet, and I've also put it on the swing arm of my motorcycle. So it's kind of nice to use for hard to reach places or somewhere where you know you don't want the camera falling off, or you can't use the suction cup. And then the third mount that I like to use a lot is called the chesty. And rightfully so, because you just wear it on your chest. It's pretty easy to adjust, and the only downside with the chesty is that any vibration that you have going through your body is going to be transferred to the chesty. So in the end, I like recording at a higher frame rate, keeping the camera low to make things seem like they're going as fast as you perceive them in real life. So those have been some quick tips if you're interested in getting into using GoPros or action cameras in general, and some of the mounts. Thanks for watching.
That is our technical director, as well as the host of Know How, Brian Burnett. Boy, the images, Brian, were beautiful, and that's high frame rate, right?
Yeah, that's the 60 frames per second.
That's the key. It's so solid. And the color and everything. Boy, it makes me want to use. There he is. Yeah. Makes me want to use my GoPro more. And that was a 3 that you were using for.
Yeah, that's the Hero 3 Black Edition.
All right, very nice. That's the one I have. Hey, we all read, I think many of us anyway.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
About the Cascadia subduction zone. This is
hello, testing. Can you guys hear me? Hello, testing. Can you guys hear me?
New Yorker does so well about science.
Okay, I don't like how that sounds. Okay, I don't like how that sounds. What about now? What about now?
In the Pacific Northwest, it scared a lot of people. We thought
testing. Testing.
Hey, Lozos? Yes. Thank you, Julian.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Particularly simulating earthquakes, which is really cool.
Testing.
Thank
you for having me. God, what is this? It didn't sound like this when I first got it.
Magazine to really get the word out on this. What do earthquake scientists think about it?
So,
sounds digital.
Kind of mixed. Sounds digital. In terms of
Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello, can you guys hear me? 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5.
Discussion among the earthquake science community about actually how to sort of clean up for some.
I know you guys can hear me. I'm just trying to fix my microphone. Can you hear me? I'm just trying to fix my microphone.
Most people know what we're talking about, so let's tell them what the subduction zone is, the Cascadia subduction.
Is that a fault?
So it's, yeah, basically it's a really big sucker fault. I mean, the reason it's described as...
I'm wondering if I should turn off this echo. Turn off this echo cancellation. Cancellation.
If you go back to your, you have your science year 9 up there. You have a video of what happens in the subduction zone. But to step back, just in plate tectonics, you can have tectonic plates interact in several ways, and I'm gonna. So here's.
Hello, test 1 2 3 4 5. Test 1 2 3 4 5.
So she says essentially the United States is floating on one tectonic plate.
Most of it.
Most of it is anyway. And then
1 2 3 4. Testing. 3 4. Testing.
So that's a pretty normal thing to have happen. There's sort of several ways plates can interact. They can spread apart, like in the
1 2 3 4 testing. 1 2 3 4 testing. 1 2 3 4 testing. 1 2 3 4 testing.
Right here, the plates are my hands up higher, moving side to side.
Okay. That's what the San Andreas fault's doing. That's that little rubbing there.
Yes, but very often.